We're on.
Good? All right. Turn your mics. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at Town Hall, 7 p.m. on May the 6th.
Joseph Caulfield.
Here.
Chandra Harjani.
Here.
Amy Lawrence. Here. Gary Rosen.
Here.
Regina Truitt.
Here.
Zhang Pen.
Yeah.
Jessica Black.
Here.
Craig Whitner.
Here. First up this evening, we'll have approval of minutes for March 18th, 24. Any corrections or changes regarding that set of minutes? If not, can I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion.
Thank
For
you.
the minutes.
And a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
No, wait, you weren't there.
Oh,
Okay.
I wasn't.
Oh.
I'll second.
So have a second. Thank you. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Next up, we have two memorializations this evening, starting with calendar 39/17/23, Rich Winter, 29 South Mountain Road in Melbourne. Who's eligible on this one?
This is 3917.
Yeah.
Chandra, Amy, Gary, Priscilla, Jessica, Craig.
Okay. Any corrections or changes to that memorialization? If not, can I have a motion to approve that?
Move approval of calendar 3917.
And a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Chandra.
Chandra Harjani.
Oh, yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Craig Whitner.
Yes. Next, we have calendar 39/66/24, same crew.
Yes.
Okay. Can I, any corrections or changes to that memorialization? Can I please have a motion then?
Move approval memorialization for calendar number 3966-24.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Chandra Harjani.
Yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Craig Whitner.
Yes. Next up, we have two extensions, one-year extensions regarding previously approved applications. First being calendar 388922. Is there any objection or further testimony regarding that? Cornelius Guth, 9 Bailey Road.
Just, Eileen, what's the reason for the extension?
Large percentage of the building costs were contingent on selling an investment property. And the offer was withdrawn, but they since been renting it out and are now ready to, they will be ready to go forward, they say, within a year.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no issue with that, can I have a motion to extend that, that request for a year?
Motion to approve the application.
Extension.
And a second, please?
I can second.
Thank you.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani.
Yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Craig Whitner.
Yes. Next up, we have calendar 3822, Indriani and Devjit Banerjee at 100 Canoe Brook Road, also requesting a one-year extension, and the reason for their extension.
I don't have a reason in his email. Unless I just do.
And they're not requesting any change to the application.
No.
I have another question about this, which is, isn't this like almost 2 years?
Well, that's the only thing. It is
Yeah.
it expired in 2022.
Well, both did.
No, the other one is more recent.
There's still 22 applications.
No, this one was, it was heard in, if this one expired.
388922 started in 22.
Right,
It
but it
came
wasn't
back in front of
approved
us,
until
like,
May.
Yeah,
of
4 times, right?
23. So it's
Yeah,
just
so it's a little bit
expired.
more
yes.
recent.
Yeah, she said, or somebody said, per, it was from Tim, per our discussion last week, we would like to request an extension. Did you recall what, if anything, Mr. Plessy said as to the circumstances?
I remember the application.
Yeah, I do remember that. Off the top. of my head.
One-story addition to rear.
Is the rear of the house.
Yeah.
It was like rear setback.
Yeah.
Do you want to get more color on it, or?
Yeah, it's really up to the board. I mean, typically, we hear, reasons to justify the extension request, or municipal land use law here, we just have a request. The board could grant it, subject to the applicant or their architect providing that information, or you can just carry it to the next meeting.
Yeah, let's carry it and ask Tim for, make sure, I want to make sure that there's no changes,
Yeah.
like, for that, so we're gonna carry 387022 request. Right, now we're gonna jump into our applications. We're changing the order just a little bit, as we're bringing up 396323 first, which is Michael and Tanya Ganella at 35 Adams. His matter has been carried. The other ones for this evening are new business, so we'll start with Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. However, one of our witnesses just recently parked and she's not here and she needs to be here right now to.
That'd be it. Then fine, then we'll move forward with,
Yeah,
like, is she parking, like,
I don't know where, but the message was she's parking.
so is she gonna go first, or can we start with someone else?
She's the planner.
Can I ask while we're reading, Amy and Jessica, you wrote that on.
I'm
She's
recusing.
refusing
I'm
on this.
recusing
That's really why I
yeah.
want to do this first, so
Uh,
And Amy,
it's just Mr. Hughes.
watch the, okay, so.
So it's 6.
I heard someone come up. I don't.
That might be Priscilla's.
No, so she's out.
Oh, she's out.
She's out, she's out. Yeah, you're right. It was nested a bunch of nice.
These are all still C variants.
Correct.
I'd love to give her a minute. Because Jessica has to
Thank you.
recuse. You know what, let's go, we'll start, do you mind? if we
No,
start?
no.
Let's go 397624. That's 21 Troy Drive, Yasser and Was. Come on down. Whoever gonna speak, we're gonna swear you in, so. Okay.
Everyone testify?
We can also at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, if everyone can raise their right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about in tonight's hearing to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your name for the record, spelling.
Harrison Barony, last name Barany.
Sheila Yasser,
Oh.
SHAHLAYASSIR.
Ying Li, YINGLI.
Who'd like to go first?
Okay, yeah.
Hi, I am Sheila Yasser, and I am the owner of 21 Troy Drive, along with my husband Yasser Nawaz. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here because he's traveling for work. And we are here because we are planning for an addition to our house. We ran into the issue of the variance, which is, I think, relatively new bylaw. So I'll leave it up to you.
Yes. Do I need to do the
Yeah, read your
verification thing?
credentials.
Yes, okay.
ahead.
Yes, my name is Ying Li. I'm the architect for the addition for 21 Troy Road. And I'm a registered architect in New Jersey and New York. And I have Bachelor of Architecture from Tongji University in China. And I have urban planning, Master of Urban Planning from University in Pennsylvania. My license in good standing.
And you testified in front of this board before, correct?
Yes, I have testified.
Credentials are accepted, please proceed.
All right, so the design of this addition actually started in early 2023. When we set out, the existing house has one existing non-conforming condition, which is the den on the left side
and has basically, so we started design with the intention of not triggering variance. So we decided to keep that den intact so that the same thing stays right now in this design. The den will stay, the roof, the structure will stay, will be just basically re-roofing, re-siding. So that is one item that's gonna be existing non-conforming, but no change. What we decided to do is to achieve higher ceiling for a larger addition. We decided to demolish the existing first and second floor and construct a building, but keep the existing frontage of the house. But when the design finished, and then when we about to apply for permit, we realized that the zoning ordinance has been updated in the fall, September of last year. So the then conforming front yard setback of 42 was no longer conforming, and actually the new ordinance required to take the average. With that, we know we're off. Actually, to ascertain how much off, so we have the E2 PM company to basically redo the survey of the house in the neighborhood. And as you can see, we are not a little bit off, or very off. So with the new ordinance, the required will be 102 feet from the front yard. So with that, if you look at the second page of the drawing with the basic L100, there is a red dotted line. That's basically taken the required prevailing front yard setback. That's basically more than 100 feet. With that means basically they're gonna put the house pretty much in the backyard.
Yeah, it's not buildable.
So that's basically the reason for the variance. And
So let's get to the bottom line here. Are you making your condition worse?
we are not making the condition worse. And then for all reasons, because, for all reasons, the landfill and also neighbor does not want to look, it will affect the street. So, and then I guess this is where Mr. Barony is gonna come in to testify how they basically, according to the new ordinance, how they came up with basically the new front yard setback.
Yeah, the new ordinance is a bit of a debacle.
Yes, and it's, so,
We're fixing that.
okay, all right, so that's good to know. You want
Yeah,
to,
you're
yeah.
caught in the trap.
Yes, brief, you can just further highlight how unreasonable.
Okay, just, wait, okay, come on up. So just provide your name.
Sure. My name is Harrison Barany, again, last name Barany. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of New Jersey, and I've testified before this board before. My license is current and good standing. I work with E2 Project Management in Rockaway, New Jersey.
Thank you. Commissioner accepted.
And you're testifying as an engineer?
Engineer, that's correct, yes. So just to further discuss the information about the front yard setback variance that we're requesting, the new ordinance, what they require is to calculate the average prevailing front yard setback of the properties, 3 adjacent properties to you on either side of your property. And so in doing that, we had our surveyors go out there, take the required shots of the front of the houses, and since when speaking with the zoning officer and confirming, we were required to have a front yard setback of 102.6 feet from the street. And now I did prepare an exhibit to basically just outlines the street that the house is located on and the existing setbacks. These are the houses that are located across the street from us. These aren't part of the calculated setback, if I may distribute them to the board.
Sure. We're gonna mark them as A1. Harris, can I ask you a question as you're doing that? So you prepared the plans that were submitted with the application, right?
That's correct.
And on figure 1, revision A, it says on the top there in the middle, prevailing front yard setback 92.7.
Yes.
So how do we get to 102 from there?
So when we did the original calculation ourselves. There's a property, it's lot 1. It's three doors down to the south. That property their driveway comes off of Troy Drive, and their property is tucked behind the house next to them, so it's essentially looks like a flag lot. Their setback to the property line is 185 feet. So with that setback in the calculation, that provides a huge skew in what you're provided. So basically 30 feet, it provides an additional 30 feet for the average if you were to count that property. So
Yeah, no, I understand all that. I see lot 1, 185 foot. I'm just saying you have here
Right.
prevailing front yard setback 92.7.
right, so in our calculation, we took the property even further down from that. We added another property because it was providing more of an accurate setback. We did that in our calculation. We got a lower number. The zoning officer said, no, you should just include the 3 properties adjacent to us. So we said, sure, we can do that. So the real number is 102.6, which is what the zoning officer provided.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure. Now, what you have in front of you, I have a larger copy here. The property's across the street, directly across the street from us and just down. The average front setback, as you can see, between each of those properties is very similar to ours. Our existing is 42 feet roughly, and theirs vary from 41 feet to 54 feet. So as you can see, it's not an odd setback to find on that neighborhood or in the street per se. And like the architect had said before, we're not really proposing any detriments to the property and encroaching further into the property. We are providing a 3-foot wide canopy across the front door. So with that, that's why we're asking a variance. It's 37.2 feet is the required setback that we're asking for our proposed structure.
And just show, do you have a plan of where showing the canopy?
Yeah, it's on our figure 1 in the architect. It's located here at the dashed line on the right side of the page there. So again, we had just talked to the zoning officers. In the ordinance, it discusses that any projections 2 feet or shorter, they don't count towards building coverage or towards the building setback. This is a 3-foot canopy, so therefore they said it does count for the setback, even though there's no structural columns attached to it. So we had to take that canopy as our new front setback. It's only 3 feet more. It's again not structural. There's no structural columns. It's just the canopy cantilevered over the door. And so that is the variance that we're requesting is for the proposed front setback of 37.2 feet, where 40.2 was the existing before. And as you can see with the exhibit I provided, it does match the area existing front setbacks of the other properties.
Yeah, those first 3 houses on Troy Drive were carve-outs of the larger home that was your house.
That's right.
So, yeah, so it's kind of an unusual situation there. Any questions?
Point of clarification, is this a side yard setback or a front yard setback variance? It's
Correct.
actually on your.
It's a front yard.
It's a front yard on
Yeah.
the documents, it says side yard, okay.
Yeah, it's a typo.
Thank you. The side yard is also challenged, but.
Any other questions for? Anything further? Oh, go ahead. Go
Quick
ahead.
question, so how far out are you extruding it beyond its existing?
It'll be 3 feet, but
3
it's
feet.
just the canopy, yeah.
Just the canopy, and then there's some steps as well, correct?
There's some steps in the front, yeah, they're improving those as well.
Yeah, in other words, without the new updated zoning ordinance in fall, then that would be the 3 feet will be the deviation we are looking for. It's because of the new ordinance, it became like way off. And then the difference between the two calculations between the zoning officer and the civil engineer is because the civil engineer took the outlier, the extreme outlier out. So, but we, on the application form, we use the number by the zoning officer. That's it.
And are you building over that den, or is the den remaining?
The den remains, yeah,
One
remain,
story.
yeah, one story, and the structure remain, it will be just re-siding to match with the new house and the re-roofing, but it stays.
Any questions of the architect? In that case, I will close the whole portion of the hearing. So, I'm sorry, any questions from the public regarding this application? Any comments from the public regarding this application? Now I will close it to the public. Board members, what say you? What's your thoughts?
Well, this is a hardship. It's clearly an unintended consequence of the new ordinance. Other residents, it's been a much more, a much more minor variance that they're seeking, so I would have no problem approving this application.
I agree.
And this is an unintended consequence of this, which we are correcting currently. Unfortunately, it doesn't work real well in our town, so, but we'll make it right eventually. So I too find this to be just kind of caught up in a scheme of variance, and I have no problem supporting this application. In that case, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
A second?
I'll second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina George,
Yes.
Jessica Blatt,
Yes.
Craig Platinum.
Yes, go for the project.
Thank you.
Tony, good? Yep. Is it a standard? Yeah, always.
Can I just double check, Amy can stay and listen?
Yeah.
If they don't go to vote?
What's that?
I mean, in case they don't go to vote tonight, and she's heard that. I mean, can she listen and participate, just not vote, if they go to vote?
Yeah, we can obviously participate and comment on the testimony that's before us tonight, but you just can't vote because you'll tell me forward use.
Or to.
Yeah,
I'll just listen.
or we go to standard with consent.
Or if you could,
Yes.
Come on down.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Strasillo with the law offices of Levitt & Strasillo in Milburn. As you know, this is a continuation hearing of March 18, 2024. And at that time, we heard board members' comments, we heard the neighbors' comments. And as a result, the applicant has diminished building coverage and lot coverage, has lowered the proposed height of the fence and changed its style, is proposing installation of 40 hedges along Taft Drive, thereby creating more open space along Taft Drive and simultaneously screening the proposed fence from Taft Drive. I have three witnesses this evening. Civil engineer John Manilio, who was previously sworn, homeowner Michael Ganella, and Catherine Sarmad, our professional planner, who also previously was sworn. I have ready in the bullpen architect Dan D'Agostino in the event there are any questions of the architect. Ready to call my first witness, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
John Manilio.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I have an exhibit I'm going to mark as, Yep.
You've been previously sworn and
Previously
you're
sworn.
continue to be, act as if you're sworn.
correct. So I'm not sure where we're at with exhibits for on.
4 is the next one.
I
If-
think 3, I think you have some O exhibits. I think A3 was the last exhibit, so we'll take.
All right, so A4 is an exhibit entitled Gunella Residence Site Exhibit with today's date. It's a color rendition of the site plan that was submitted with the landscaping shown, aerial with the property highlighted in yellow, the zoning tabulations, and a detail of the proposed fence. As council has stated earlier, there are 3 changes to the plans that were submitted previously. I'll go through those in a little more detail. The first one is building coverage. So the 2 areas that were on either side of the pool house have been converted from roofed areas to open trellises. And then the northeast corner of the dwelling was converted from a roofed area to an open trellis as well, and that's the outdoor dining area. So the total building coverage was reduced from 7,657 square feet to 7,100 square feet. So a little over 550 square feet of building coverage was removed from the previous application or previous submission. As far as impervious coverage, there was a minor tweak, not a lot that was given up, but we looked at areas around the pool that could have been given up as far as impervious coverage. And 2 areas that we saw were on either side of the proposed patio where a fire pit will be. And those would be planted areas as well for a reduction of about 50 square feet of impervious from 36.6% to 36.5%. Again, I want to reiterate that we are proposing stormwater as in the form of dry wells. And that will treat approximately 7,150 square feet of impervious coverage. So all the new impervious coverage is being treated in this new dry well. And when the house was granted building permits for the original house that's being built today, that was designed as well for almost a 6,000 square foot system that would treat 6,000 square feet of impervious. So right now with the 2 systems, a little over 13,000 square feet of impervious is being treated. Where previously there was nothing as far as treatment when the house that was there prior was in existence. And that house was just under 13,000 square feet total impervious. Lastly, the last change we made was with fencing and landscaping. So previously when we came in front of the board, we had a 6-foot solid privacy fence that was black, very modern, and it was against the property lines on all sides of the property, along the side, and then along the frontage of Taft Drive. That has been revised. It is now a 4-foot black ornamental fence, similar to what you would see in typical pool applications, which is shown right here. And that is now against the property lines along the side. And then as we are on Taft Drive, we offset it 20 feet from the right-of-way line. And it proceeds until it gets to the cul-de-sac, and at that point, it follows the existing fence line. There was an existing fence that was there. That's coming out, and it will be replaced with this new black ornamental fence. Additionally, we are proposing 40 shrubs that will form a hedge. They'll be skip laurels, and they'll be right against the fence. And again, that will leave green space on the other side of the fence between that and the right-of-way, and that was some of the concerns that the neighbors had at the last meeting. And that's the summary of the proposed changes to the plans.
Skip laurels are going to be on which side of the fence?
They'll be on the Taft side,
The Taft side.
correct.
So once again, I don't think I ever got the answer to my question last time. Was obviously with brand new house here, was all this stuff contemplated when you designed the house?
So we do have the applicant here, and I think that was the missing piece of the puzzle last time as far as why and what transpired during the process. So that testimony will be provided.
Because I mean, your changes are at best negligible. So I'm kind of puzzled here.
I respect that. I mean, I think as far as the lot coverage, that was slight. As far as building coverage, the building itself, the house itself is right at the requirement. So anything that we would propose would be a variance for building coverage.
All right, so let's see if we get the answer to that question.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you just identify on your sheet A4 where the reduction took place in terms of the building coverage?
Sure. So there's 3 areas. I'll point to it. It's on the west side of the pool house, the east side of the pool house, and the northeast corner of the house that's under construction.
You changed from solid roofs to trellises.
Correct.
Right.
Per the definition in
Right.
the ordinance, it's not considered building coverage anymore. So roofed area.
you said the fire pit changed. I'm looking at both the prior one and this one. How did that change? What's the same?
So either side of the wings of the fire pit is now landscaped area. It's not pavers.
It's 50 square feet, you microscope.
And that part is reduced by 50 square feet. which
Correct.
is 0.1%.
Correct.
Any questions further for? Witness? Go ahead, next. Any questions from the audience? We'll have comments at the end if there's any.
Okay, I call Michael Ganello.
Sure.
Hi, everyone.
Raise your right hand.
Thanks, Mike.
He wasn't sworn, right?
No.
Correct, he's not.
Just right, do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Your name for the record, please.
Michael Ganello.
Thank you.
Are you the property owner?
Yes.
Did you hear the question of Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes.
Can you please address that?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I apologize for not being able to attend the initial meeting. I happened to be away. I didn't mean any disrespect to the committee. So with respect to the question at hand, when we first purchased the home, my wife and I thought about how we were going to be using the home, what our lives are going to look like. And I think at the time we had purchased the home, the idea was we were not actually going to be spending time locally during the summer. So because of COVID, my office changed its policy. So we're a 5-day-a-week firm for 10 months of the year, but for July and August, we can all work from home. And because of that flexibility, our plan had been to purchase a beach home and spend the summers down the shore. Two major on top of that, as we started planning for our home, my father-in-law was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. My wife is an only child, and it was important for her that her parents live with us. So we expanded. They're proud people. They didn't want to leave their home. We really wanted them to be with us. They're elderly, so we expanded our house so that we could fit, like an in-law area for them, so they would feel comfortable and they wouldn't be, again, proud people. We don't want them to be uncomfortable and so forth. So we put in an elevator. We built this kind of little area for them so that my wife could be there for them. So that's actually why we ended up building the house bigger. And we thought to ourselves, look, we're going to have this beach house. We're not going to use this space. It's no big deal. Two major things changed since then from our thinking. And one, we were very naive because what we found out is our kids, our thought was, okay, great, our kids can be with us. And what I've come to realize as my kids have gotten older is no. Their athletics, their school, and so forth requires them to be here more and more during the summer. So that was going to be a problem to go and essentially move somewhere for a couple of months. And the other thing is, the financial strain. It was going to be difficult for us to purchase something down the shore. And we decided, look, and more importantly, especially as the house was coming along, we really fell in love with the area, we really fell in love with the people, we really fell in love with what we were building. And we said, why would we ever want to leave this place? And we decided, look, let's build a backyard that's kind of commensurate with the house. So in short, that's the background of why we did it and the timing of when we did it.
Any questions for Mr. Ganello?
What would happen if you made the whole house smaller, or did you make some attempt to get some of these numbers to comply? How bad would that be for you?
I mean, look.
It's not the house, obviously the house is already nearly.
Yeah, look, I'm open. Also, honestly, my hope was just to have a really beautiful backyard and to be able to invite the neighbors over. One thing I did as soon as I moved into the neighborhood, we have an email chain for everyone in our kind of little subsection. And I said, look, the first thing I'm going to do when my house is built is I'm going to have everyone over for drinks in the backyard. And look, we're an entertainment. We love to entertain. This is something we love to do. So, look, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We're amenable. And ultimately, look, I just want to make sure we finish the home. We've been doing this process for a long time. We're an inconvenience to all of our neighbors. I want to get this done obviously for us, but also for them, just, and so forth. In fact, I've actually brought everyone who is neighboring my land. They've come here. I've talked to all of them. I think you'll find that all of them are amenable to everything we've been discussing. You know, I've told the team, look, especially from a water standpoint, spare no expense. It's super important to me. Look, I want to be the best neighbor possible, and I don't want anything that we do to interfere in any way, shape, or form with any of our neighbors. We want to make, we're super amenable. We're super nice. Like, we're looking to do something really nice here, and just to do something that I think is really good for the whole kind of area.
So I don't doubt for a second your neighborly intentions. What the conversation we had in the last meeting when you were here was that you have a substantially oversized lot for the zone. It's substantially oversized. You're 17 or 18,000 square feet over the allotment. Yet you have exorbitant deviations on top of that. So from our perspective, we have to look at it as saying, is this good planning? Is this good use of the zoning plan and master plan? Say we have a lot that's extensively oversized for the area, yet we're overdeveloping it substantially.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the conversations we had was, honestly, I thought it was going to come back with a fence application, because I kind of thought that's the message we got across. But here we are, just making some tweaks. So it becomes very difficult to look at this thing and say, okay, well, we have this enormous development in the backyard on a hugely oversized lot, and we're just blowing past all of it. So from a C1 or C2 perspective, the way we look at it here on this board, it's hard to fit it into those buckets.
Completely understood. And like I said, if we had planned better, I guess initially, this would have been better dealt with. I think our lives just really changed a lot in the period of time when we were doing this process.
I mean, it's unusual though in this town to build a house of this, size and complexity and not have some sort of developed backyard. So that's why I find this whole thing a little hard to believe. That, as I addressed my question to your professionals originally, was how was this not contemplated when this was originally? We have a huge lot, we're building a substantial home, substantial investment, and usually the stuff that goes along with these homes usually includes a pool. I mean, maybe other stuff you can live without, but you have a pool. So it's so hard for me to comprehend that this was not contemplated.
Yeah, no, understood. I promise you, it was something that we really thought we were not going to be here for the summers. In fact, the last 2 summers, we completely left the area, again, because of the flexibility my office has. And to us, it just didn't make sense. Why am I going to have a pool that I'm not going to open all summer? It just seemed kind of a little bit weird to me. And that's why we didn't proceed with it. But I completely understand where you're coming from, because I agree with you. I think a rational way of thinking is exactly what you said. I think our situation is just a bit unique because we really were not planning to be here all summer.
No, I understand that. Like I said, we look at it from a municipal land use perspective, not from an owner's intentions, because obviously our decisions from the land, not with you as the owner.
Of course.
So you sell this house tomorrow, someone else moves in, and that's whatever their intentions are, their intentions are.
Of course.
So we have to look at it as saying, okay, from planning perspective, from a master plan and zoning plan, does it make sense to overdevelop a lot that's substantially oversized?
Of course.
That's
And
the bottom line.
I completely understand. And that's why I've asked the team to make 100% sure to spend whatever I have to spend to make sure from a water mitigation standpoint, we are going far above and beyond. what's
That's
required.
obviously one component, but from the land use perspective, and honestly, that is not something this board, it's not really under the purview of this board, it's strictly engineering. It has to approve that, and if that doesn't get approved, you can't move forward anyway. So from that perspective, yes, that has to be dealt with regardless.
Mhm.
But we're a different board than that. We look at it from a land use perspective, not necessarily an engineering perspective.
I understand.
So, any other questions for Mr. Ganell? Then I'll throw it back to you.
Catherine.
Thanks so much,
Sarmat.
Sure.
Catherine's been previously sworn.
Correct.
Good evening. Catherine Sarmat.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Super.
Just restate your name.
Catherine Sarmat. Last name spelled S-A-R-M-A-D. Thank you for having me back tonight. So as you heard from the engineer, there have been some modifications to the plans which do impact the variance relief. Previously at the last meeting, It was discussed that there are 4 conditions in which both variance relief is being sought. 2 of those conditions are not changing at all. They're related to the configuration of the lot, having dual frontage along Taft Drive and Adams Ave. And there is no rear yard setback, there's 2 front yard setbacks as a result. And so those variances are not changing at all. However, the numerical values for the 2 other variances for the lot coverage and building coverage are changing, as you heard from the engineer. I wanted to mention, I did hear some of the feedback at the previous meeting. I did look at some of the surrounding homes. It's very difficult to discern the lot coverages exactly or the impervious coverage exactly, even from having tax data. But I can say that there are a number of lots in the surrounding area that have improvements to their yards. There's about 10% of the 20 or so homes around Taft, Lake, Adams, and Shore Edge that have tennis courts, and about 20% of them have pools in the backyard. So they do have improvements, I think, as you mentioned, that would go with the quality of the homes in the area. This is by no means the largest home, the principal structure, the largest home in the area. But there is a diversity of new builds and older homes in the area. And I think that lends itself to kind of the kind of discussion about, is this out of character? Is this within line with the development trends and patterns in the area? And I would say that I do believe that this development, despite requiring variance relief, does match and does not impose any kind of substantial detriments to the area, because I think there are a number of homes that have similar development. With that, I've already discussed at the last meeting some of the background to master plan, some of the purposes of the municipal land use law that are furthered by these variances. And I just wanted to also include that information, as well as the intention purpose of the R zones under 606.2 for R3 through R6 includes that there isn't really many purposes included underneath it, but it does include that if there's vacant land, presumably also like redevelopment, infill development of a home, that it be compatible with the existing development patterns. And so, as I just mentioned, I do not think that that's violated here. I do believe that the proposed home does meet and is compatible with the existing development. I also believe that the intent and purpose, presumably with standards, zoning standards, bulk standards for impervious lot coverage and bulk standards, are to protect against overdevelopment, to protect against an impact on stormwater potentially. And as you heard from the engineer, the stormwater management has been designed to handle and exceed what's on the site. Previously, what was previously built on this site did not have any stormwater management control. So that inherently is an improvement that I think will help to combat with any of the variance relief requested for the 2 conditions on coverage. I also believe that this is an oversized lot. And despite exceeding coverage, it still meets the setbacks, and so it doesn't have an imposition on its neighbors because the principal structure and the accessory structures do meet the setback requirements, and there is landscaping and substantial existing foliage that will help kind of buffer the site as well. With that, I think I'll put on the relief also specifically for the 2 variance conditions. For coverage, previously the variance relief sought for the building coverage was give me a second, my text too small. Was previously been reduced now to 15.4%, where it was previously 16.6%. That's a change of about 557 square feet difference in the building coverage. The lot coverage variance has changed from 36.6% to 36.5% now, which is a difference of about 55 net square feet. I still believe that the test.
So that's for the lot coverage. What's the difference?
The difference is 55 square feet.
And so the building coverage of 15.4% versus 13% is the max. So how much are you over in terms of square footage?
This,
691.
yes.
What is it?
691.
That's on coverage.
No, it's in building, is that building
That's lot
coverage?
coverage.
No, no,
That's
building
lot- oh, I'm sorry.
coverage.
Building coverage is permitted to be, I actually don't have the calculation.
Maybe Mr. Miller. Just all, I just looked at all the zoning table calculations, all have them in terms of percentages, so.
It's 1,108.
So you're over building coverage, 1,108 square feet.
Correct.
So as previously mentioned, I'll put the proofs on again for the C2 flexible C variance. So this is for section 606.2E.2.A of the R3 zone, where maximum building coverage of 13% is permitted, whereas a building coverage of 15.4% is proposed. And for section 606.2E.2B of the R3 zone, where a maximum lot coverage of 35% is permitted, whereas 36.5% is proposed. I do believe that granting these variances will advance the purposes outlined in the municipal land use law, specifically purpose A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Purpose C, to provide adequate light, air, and open space. Purpose I, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. And I, as mentioned before about the residential zones under 606.2, of which the R3 zone is included, I do believe that this will not substantially impair the purpose of the zone. I do believe that is compatible with the existing development in the neighborhood. As I mentioned before, the house is by no means the largest home in the area, and there are larger homes on smaller lots. I do believe that many of the improvements proposed are related entirely, although they are connected to the home being designed to the maximum building coverage. I do believe that many of the improvements that are sought here tonight are intended to create a better design and an overall better home for the applicant. He's testified here tonight to provide that he wants this to be a home, a generational home where his in-laws can live with his family. I think that's a wonderful thing. And he wants to, remain in Millburn as long as he can. So for those reasons, I believe that the board can and should grant the variances for the relief requested. Thank you.
So these properties that you cited that have these tennis courts, swimming pools, how many are 65% over the required size of the lot?
I mean, there's homes with, there's 2 tennis courts in the adjacent area. One has a tennis court and a pool. That's long. That's at the corner of Lake,
Right.
south of the site.
Compliant?
That lot is probably larger.
Right.
It's oversized.
So is that done as of right?
See, I that's what's difficult to discern is if any of these homes have done it as of right, if they've received variance relief. Some of them appear to be over the coverages from just an aerial perspective and a simple calculation.
So
I didn't do an Oprah request to
now,
see.
I remember you said or in your qualifications that you represent various towns, correct? That you were the.
I do.
How many of those towns would be look at an application like this and say, this is good planning?
I represent your neighbor Springfield
Right.
Township. They grant, especially in the past 5 years since COVID, many applications were granted relief, especially for homeowners who were seeking outdoor improvements that exceeded their lot coverage and their building coverage for similar reasons. They sought to either move in-laws that were elderly or sickly. They sought to have outdoor improvements that could have fresh air and an outdoor experience for kids because of the COVID pandemic. And so, that's just one example of your, very adjacent neighbor.
Could a pool lawfully exist in this yard?
I mean, I'd have to look at that. I think from a coverage perspective, it probably with that, with nothing else.
Right.
Hypothetically, just a pool. Depends on the amount.
Hampton style pool, could that lawfully exist?
With a like the outer,
The coping. what
the
have you,
coping
sure.
and the walkways and everything, it'd have to be redesigned, but a pool probably.
Any other questions? Sure.
So thank you for your testimony. With regard to the 1,108 square feet over on the you're certainly aware of the Kaufman case that says that for a C2 case for an oversized lot such as this, the applicant needs to demonstrate that what's being proposed is a better zoning alternative for the property. Forget about who's living there, what the circumstances are, as the chairman pointed out earlier. So what, just articulate, I think, for the board, what the better, why is this a better zoning alternative for this property?
I believe that the way that the lot is currently set up with the two frontages along Taft, presently, the way the site was developed before as a home that had a driveway off of Taft, I think was not the most optimal. Having access from both Taft and Adams, I think that can create more impact on the neighbors than what is proposed today, where there is no access to Taft, where it is fenced off, where the backyard is treated like a backyard and doesn't utilize Taft at all. I believe that that is what the applicant is proposing, despite requiring variance relief. They want to, develop the property wholly, and I think it's a beautiful design. But I think that it is an improvement from what existed there previously, and I think that it is a better alternative to plan the site that way.
So, in terms of demonstrating a better zoning alternative for the property, the standard is not what you're being faced with and why you're necessarily improving the lot and the structures of the lot, but why a better zoning alternative for the property as opposed to complying with the zoning standards. So I think that would be helpful to the board.
Okay, certainly. I think, the chairman alluded to the idea that this could be complied with by eliminating certain features, hypothetically redesigning the backyard as from what's proposed today. I believe that this, seeking these variances, as I mentioned before, is a better zoning alternative because it creates a backyard environment for the site. I think it is a better design to include a structure such as the pool house further away or away from home and complementary in design to it. And I don't think it imposes any additional impacts as a result of the way it's designed. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions from the public regarding this testimony?
I have a question. So you said that in terms of that improvement, that you used the term backyard environment. Do you think that the homeowner, any homeowner, would have a deficiency if they didn't have a pool in their backyard environment, if they didn't have a pool in a pool house? It's a rhetorical question. It's just,
No, I
the
think,
statement you made, that
I think
you do that.
it's based on the needs of the homeowner, right? The applicant has noted that he wants this to be a place where his entire family lives and enjoys it. And I think he's got kids and he wants to enjoy the property to its fullest extent possible. And that's the request for the relief that he seeks.
Is it a need or a want?
Oh, it's, yeah, it's an ask, it's a want.
I mean, thank you.
Can I just ask a question real quick? On the original plans, that proposed outdoor shower was 30 feet off the Taft Drive. And in this plan, I see that that's been made a little bigger and you have pool equipment in it. Is that Is that pool?
Say that again, which portion?
Wait, so hold on. So, Eileen, what are you specifically referring to? So we can,
I'm sorry, I'm looking at
are you talking about the variance plan?
the the Manterra design plan.
Okay, and what sheet are you
I'm looking
referring
at
to?
sheet one.
You're on sheet one, okay, where it has the zoning
Yes.
tabulation,
Yeah.
right?
I'm looking at the plot plan.
Okay, so to the left of where it has the zoning tabulation, go ahead.
And, you're showing now proposed pool equipment with the outdoor shower. Is that in an enclosure?
Yes, so I believe at the last board meeting, we had included the pool equipment that was gonna be located back there, and we were gonna enclose it. So it looks like it was part of it, but it's not part of the outdoor shower, it's just an enclosure for the equipment.
Okay,
So that has been added to the plans, and I apologize, I didn't
all right.
state that changed before.
I missed it. I just wanted to make sure it was. And it's actually 2 feet closer than it was. The original plan. The original plan showed it 30 feet off the property line.
30.5,
28.3.
Correct, and I believe on the last exhibit that we had, it was shown as 28.3. We had it on the exhibit, we just formalized it as part of this
Okay.
submission.
Once again, any questions for the planner in this case? No question, board? Tony or Cheryl?
No further questions on the way.
Okay. Then in that case, any other questions from board? Brendan? Then I'll open up to comment from the audience. Anyone in the audience have any comment regarding this application? Your name and address, for the record.
You will have to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in tonight's presentation to be the truth, what you found but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
My name is Lawrence Krovlev. It's Lawrence. My last name is Krovlev.
And your address?
I'm sorry, just go KRO.
Krovlev. V like Victor, Lev like Victor. I live at 44 Lake Road, property adjacent to the property we're discussing. Should I begin or?
Sure.
Well, I was actually gonna, so I've known, it's interesting, I've known Mr. Ganella, Michael, since we were 6 years old. We actually went to Hillside Elementary School in Livingston, New Jersey together. It's strange to call him Mr. Ganella because we used to call him his dad that when he took us to Pizza Hut. We hadn't spoken in 20 years, and then he bought the property behind us. And so it was just really interesting because, we reconnected. And I was gonna talk about a bunch of different things, but if it's okay, I actually wanted to maybe talk about a couple of the questions that you just had. So when you asked, why this wasn't planned, I'm not a lawyer and I don't represent them, but I can tell you about conversations we had. When I first found out that he was doing this property, it was like 3 years ago. It's been a very slow process. And I was really excited to reconnect with Michael. I was like, let's spend a lot of time together in the summer. I'm not there. I was really surprised when he said that, but he wasn't there. This is 3 years now going on. He had spent no time between, roughly June and September, never able to meet up, gave us all these trips he was taking and spending time with his family. So Michael's a conservative person, just based on his profession and his personality. He didn't want to build things that he didn't need. So I can't speak to what the exact process was when they were planning it, but I can testify, if that's the right word, that what he's telling you is actually consistent with what I experienced. He didn't really plan on spending any time at this property in the summertime. He didn't want to build property or structures, and invest in structures that wouldn't be necessary or useful. When you talk about the property itself, so I've lived there when the old property was there as well. So the old property was owned by a family. They were really nice. They had lived there for a really long time. I think Amy and Ira Cotel. Many of you maybe know them. They hadn't really invested in the property for a long time. So Michael came and it was obvious that he was going to, knock it down and build up whatever he wanted. So when he didn't build a pool on a very large property that had been adjacent to several, I thought it was a little strange as well. Like you said, I don't remember exactly your words, but it would be consistent with a property like this to have a pool. As a property owner adjacent to him, I welcome these additions and features. I think that the property should have them. So when we talk about what happens if he sells it tomorrow, well, I'd actually be concerned about his ability to sell it if he doesn't have some of these features. Now, that's his financial business, not mine, But I do worry about how the property will be evaluated by potential buyers. I do worry about how the area around us may not be the most desirable possible area. I can't speak to his mistakes or misplannings, but I do think, though, that the area that he's talking about, many of us have pools. I have a pool. His other neighbors have pools. You know, the people down the block from me have their tennis court. I hear them playing tennis all the time. I welcome some of these things, even if they require variances. And lastly, I would just say that the property itself, what Michael's doing to the property is a big improvement to what there was there before. The property before was neglected for 50 years. So the improvement that he has with the house and these structures really create value for the community in terms of what we see visually when we look out across from it. I hope he gets this variance because I think he deserves it.
Thank you.
Sit down or?
Yeah. Any further comment from the audience?
Hey. Do you swear or from the testimony you're about to give in tonight's hearing, be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name, please.
Aaron Prince, Aaron, Prince, 50 Lake Road. So we're the Ganellas new neighbors, right behind them. And he shared the plans with us. They've been great neighbors so far. And I'd be, supportive of his plans. I have no issues with them. That's all I really have to add.
Thank you. Next.
You swear from testimony you're about to give tonight, the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
Karen Horowitz, Karen Horowitz, and I'm at 41 Adams Avenue.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Horowitz. I've lived at 41 Adams Avenue since 2006, and so I'm directly next to Michael and his family at 35. Over the last 18 years, we have seen many houses in our neighborhood turn over. Any worries that we might have had about our new neighbors and the ensuing construction quickly disappeared after we met the Ganellas. Michael and Tanya truly represent what I think most people would hope for in a neighbor. They quickly joined, as Michael had mentioned, kind of our neighborhood group communication. He shared the plans with us, kind of welcomed any comments, feedback throughout the process. And we have found them to be very friendly, committed to enhancing our neighborhood and making it their long-term home. Throughout this long building process, they've been both accommodating and forthcoming with their plans. I'm happy to see the Ganella family enjoy our neighborhood and their house, both the inside of their house and the outside of their house. And I speak on behalf of myself and my husband, Jeff, and we're comfortable with their overall house, the pool house, portico, pool, and fence plans. They have been very sensitive to the water table issue in our neighborhood, and I'm confident that their landscaping, drainage, plans and everything are only going to improve our neighborhood. And I do believe, even from being an adjacent neighbor, that the building structure, even though it's a large structure, is an improvement over what was there before. And even some of the setbacks, it's further setback than the existing structure that was like right along our fence line previously. So I'm very supportive of the plan and kind of anxious to have it move along as well.
Thank you.
Swear from testimony you're about to give tonight, be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address for the record, spelling your name.
David Lane, Lane, 15 Taft Drive, Short Hills. We're the neighbor directly across the street from the rear yard. So thank you to the board for hearing the concerns of the neighbors last time and considering. With respect to the fence and the mitigations, we really appreciate that Mr. Ganella has engaged in discussions with the neighbors, us, regarding the fence placement and mitigation issues that we were seeking. Through discussions and some visits, we agreed on how to address some of those concerns. which would include ongoing consultation as they move forward with completing the project. We're all looking forward to the project completing. It has been a long time. We think they're going to make great neighbors. And regarding the fence, we are okay with its placement and the landscaping. Thank you.
Anything else?
You swear from testimony about to give tonight in this hearing to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address for the record.
Matthew Guest, 21 Taft Drive.
Just spell your last name.
Guest. And I spoke at the last meeting, as you may recall. I want to echo what Dave said, particularly around the fence. I think the one clarification, and Michael and I spoke yesterday, is there's some trees planted along the curb currently. I would just like for those trees to be retained in any event, and then the shrubbery behind those between the fence and the existing trees. Just don't want to see 15 big trees cut down. I don't think that was ever intended. The other thing I would note is that, and I don't know if this is relevant for the considerations, but one thing that is a dramatic improvement over the current state of the property, and maybe it's an improvement occasioned by the changes to the plan, is the addition of the dry wells, and the sounds like basically a doubling of the dry wells that were included, because that's an oddly shaped lot, as you can all see from the plan, and that little whatever it is, like a thumb or whatever that sticks out and it joins my property along the cul-de-sac, is like a wetland right now, with when there's any rain, and that'll be I think the addition of those dry wells will be a very welcome change. Certainly it'll be very important for your enjoyment of your own property, but I am supportive of the variances in large part due to Michael's accessibility and willingness to discuss with us and really be open throughout the process. Thank you.
Any further comment? Then I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, what are your thoughts?
I'll go first. So I appreciate the modifications you've made to the fence. I think you really listened to our concerns and modified it to, in my opinion, acceptable degree. I'm hearing the neighbors are supportive, which means a lot to me personally, but I have to tell you, I'm still worried that with this very large for the zone property, and even with your modest improvements to come down, it's still over, and I'm wondering if there's a way to get this in compliance and consideration, just that it really should be compliant. Anxious to hear what everyone else says.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll go next. I agree with Regina. Actually, Barry, I think the neighbors would be happy as well that the fence is now the 4-foot look-through fence versus the 6-foot solid fence. That was the thing that jumped off the page of me. But to echo what Regina was saying as well, it was very difficult to even find where you were reducing the square footage coverage there. If there's something that you mentioned it during your testimony, you might consider just doing some kind of a re-modification of this. So that would be my thoughts.
Thank you.
I would echo exactly what has been said so far. I really struggle with this application from the C1 and C2 perspective.
Clearly, there's no hardship as you have a lot that's 17,000 square feet over the lot minimum, and yet we're still exceeding the coverage and lot coverage and building coverage by excessive amount. I don't think that's good planning. I don't think that's to the benefit of the zoning plan and master plan. And I would not be supportive of those two variances. However, the fence, I think, has been well thought out, and because of the C1 nature of that, I would be accepting of that request. But as for the lot coverage and building coverage, I would not support it.
Look, I agree with those comments, and it still feels like a little too much. I think that the changes with respect to the fence are great. I I just think the other changes are not sufficient. And I just don't think I can support them.
So Counselor, I'll throw it back to you. What are your thoughts? Do you want to move forward with the vote?
Let's not,
No, we'd like to have another opportunity to revise plans.
Sounds good. Eileen, let's get on the docket.
July 1st.
I'm sorry?
July 1st, does that work?
July 1st? July 1st?
Let's put it down. You okay with that? Well, I mean, you can obviously change that, but
Okay, yes.
that's
Yes.
next available.
Thank
Because
you,
I couldn't.
thank you, thank you.
All right. With that, we'll be moving on.
Wait, so for all interested parties, this application has been carried by the board to the July 1st, 2024 meeting of the board, 7 o'clock in this room. No further notice will be provided by the applicant. This is your notice. So the next hearing on this will be July 1st, 2024, 7 o'clock, no further notice.
Thank you. Next up, we have calendar 397824. The applicant is Montclair Indoor Golf, proposed location 378 Milburn Avenue. How are you?
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Wichiscala. I'm here tonight on behalf of Montclair Indoor Golf LLC. I've got very large shoes to fill because I am pinch hitting tonight for Mr. Skolnick. He's been applicant's attorney on this. He took his wife to Paris. I think they flew out yesterday. They're probably in bed now, but I'm sure they were looking at the Eiffel Tower probably not that long ago. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight. Just briefly, my client has entered into a lease to occupy the entire first floor of the retail commercial space of the building, which is diagonally across, if you look out that window, at 378 Milburn Avenue. The property is identified as Block 801, Lot 6.01. It's located in the township's B4 Central Business Zone District. This is a property owned by Essex 281 LLC. They received site plan approvals in 2022 for the construction of that building, which consists of a 3-story mixed-use building. Ground floor retail commercial space, office space on the second floor, and then 3 residential apartments up on the third floor. My client is here tonight seeking variance approvals to permit the use and occupancy of that entire first floor space. It's actually about 2,598 square feet. We're going to have Mr. Keller clarify that because there are a couple different numbers in the application forms. But we're looking to occupy it for the purpose of operating an indoor golf training facility. We're proposing essentially 3 simulator bays with the potential for a 4th bay as well. Our improvements are limited to the interior leasehold space itself, so we're not expanding the building, we're not modifying the building externally or the like. If approved, this will be our client's second business location here in Essex County. As you're going to see and hear more this evening, this is a very low intensity use of the property itself. It is a club membership oriented use. It is very strictly operated and regulated by ownership. The parking that was previously approved for the use is more than ample for my client's needs. And we do believe it's a use that's complementary to the downtown district and one that's going to support other businesses in the area. The reason we're here before you tonight, our use is not specifically permitted in the B4 zone district. Your B4 zone district allows a whole variety of uses, retail services, instructional uses in studios or instructional schools and studios, and various other uses. This is really an experiential use. We just really do not fit any one of those criteria. Probably, if I were looking at it the first time, I'd say it's akin to a retail service or it's akin to instructional uses in studios, and I've been before your planning board presenting those types of uses. We do have golf instructor that's available for members of the public that want to come to this facility. But they're not there. They're not there all day, every day. And you'll hear a little bit more about it. We think it is a great use for this property. I have two witnesses tonight. Jimmy Volkanovich, he is the owner. He's the operator. I'm going to call him up to speak about the use, how this facility would operate at this location. And then we have Rich Keller, who you all know. He's a civil engineer. He's a planner. He's really here tonight in capacity as a planning and his capacity as a planner, and Mr. Keller also served as the engineer and planner when this project was approved before the planning board in 2022. So he's quite familiar with the site. So unless anybody has any questions of me, I'd like to call Mr. Volkanovich to testify and be sworn in, in the first instance.
Do you swear from testimony about taking tonight's proceeding to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record, spelling your name.
James Vukanovich, V like in Victor, UKANOVICH.
Thank you.
And Mr. Vukanovich, why don't you please just tell the board a little bit about yourself, and I'll just turn it over to you to describe what it is we're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, all of you, for your time and consideration and the feedback that I'm sure you'll give me. By just way of introduction, I'm an avid golfer. I moved to Chatham out of the city with my wife. And when I wanted to open a second location, I started working on Millburn because I think it's like the perfect place for this. My introduction to Millburn was I wanted to go on a date night with my wife, and we didn't have a reservation. So our neighbors told us, well, you should check out the Standard. Because you didn't need a reservation. And then we found Moonshine, and then next thing you know, now we do like family dates there all the time. So that was kind of my introduction to Millburn and why I really started to kind of like it. To be honest with you, wish that I lived in Millburn instead of Chatham. But in the meantime, I opened a location. I started looking here. I started working with the Special Improvement District. They have kind of helped attract my business and kind of helped me figure out what the standards of the community are. They've been really helpful in that process. I opened Montclair Indoor Golf Club. I still kept working on Millburn because this is like just a perfect location for it. The one thing that I want to impress upon all of you is that when folks usually think about indoor golf, your first kind of experience of it is like 5-iron in the city or the clubhouse or maybe Top Golf outside. Those are kind of on the spectrum of very event focused, very like party atmosphere, a lot of people, food and beverage. On the indoor golf space, I'm on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. So 5-iron and events are over here, corporate events are over here. I'm over here where it's avid golfers. Where you have 5-iron, you have 4, 5, 10, 20 people in a party. In mine, it averages 1.25 people per tee time. So most of the folks are individuals trying to get better at the game of golf. I designed the space to be a real facility to get better at golf as opposed to an event space. What I'm looking to bring is a 3-bay facility to Millburn. I can fit 4. So if the community doesn't demand more capacity, I'm going to probably add some, kind of high tech, like workout things just for golfers. But my guess is that the community can support the 4th bay. And so that would be coming within, 12 months of opening. I think that, or I know that our business is a destination retail location. So people come specifically to golf for us. They make a tee time well in advance. They're excited about it. They very rarely miss a tee time. And those people usually frequent local food and beverage places, whether it's for lunch or dinner or whatever else. Most folks I've seen in Montclair often, are adding business to places that, they wouldn't otherwise be there if they weren't there golfing. So I do think it would be a positive addition to Millburn, which I already mentioned that I really like and frequent a lot myself. As far as just to go over some quick bullet points about the business, and please stop me if you have questions or something doesn't make sense. I don't mind answering them live. We are open to the public. Most people choose to be members. About 98+% of our golf balls are hit by members. Members can gain access via their smartphones when and only when they have a tee time. So if I have 3 bays, that means 3 members can access the facility at once. When I have 4 bays, 4 members can access the facility at once. So it's never a free-for-all, 100 people have access to this place. Most rounds of golf take place between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. with an average number of golfers, I already touched on it, less than 1.25 people per tee time. In other words, we won't be using very many parking spaces. We serve avid golfers, as I mentioned, as opposed to event or social goers. I expect we'll need an expected value of kind of 5 spaces. That's that 1.25 times 4. So that's kind of the maximum once we have 4 bays, with an absolute max of kind of 10 to 12 at those like 5 to 10 minute turnover when there's like, and that's assuming everybody's tee time stops and ends at the same time, which never happens because tee times can range from 1 hour to 3 hours, sometimes even more, but over 99% are between 1 and 3 hours. Let's see. Technically, members can book, and this is more so important for like marketing and getting folks kind of excited about what I'm doing. Technically, members can book tee times 24 hours a day in my other location. But like I said, it's kind of like catches your attention if you say like tee off 24/7, right? For the most part, it's between all, like for 99% of it, it's between 5:30 a.m. Sometimes people replace like an early morning workout as they're on their way to the train or something like that. And it usually ends at about 11:30 p.m. If it goes that late, it's usually me, to be honest with you, or somebody else trying to like fix what was broken earlier in the day. Like again, a kind of individual 2 guys, like I said, it averages 1.25. It's not like 10 people there. I don't even allow 10 people on one tee time. The max is 4. I'm actually thinking for this location, one of the bays being 3, or all of them being 3 and the performance bay being 2. That's only because my experience has been that like people actually have more fun with 2 and 3 people. When it's 4, it's just a lot if you're actually serious about golfing as opposed to hanging out. Sound is of little concern given the insulation of the bays that I install. My experience is next to both other retail locations and my location in Montclair. We have very expensive apartments above us. We haven't had a single complaint. I've even gone over to the retail unit next door and put my ear on the wall just out of curiosity, and I can never hear anything. Like I said, tee times about 1 to 3 hours. Most are around 90 minutes. That gives you enough time to warm up, play around a golf, hit a few balls to fix what wasn't working.
What's your proposed hours, actually?
What's that?
What are your proposed hours of operation?
So that the door is actually open, that somebody can walk in off the street. It's usually only like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's when I'm there. For members, they can technically book tee times 24 hours a day, which I'm hoping that you're open to. It's worked in both my locations that I've opened previously. I currently operate Montclair, which, to be honest with you, I was more concerned about Montclair than I am Millburn in terms of security and that sort of stuff. But the security is very good. I haven't had any issues in Montclair.
Can you actually speak to that, if you wouldn't mind, just from?
Yeah, so just, John, when you go over that.
Yeah.
For your counsel, just explain how it works, that you
Absolutely.
use your phone.
Absolutely.
And the phone allows you to open the door, right? And the lights come
Absolutely.
on or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So what happens
What
when you,
Mr. Simon just said.
I'll almost walk you through the use case for the golfer, if that's okay. It might bring even more understanding. So you'll like book a tee time. You'll say, I want to go at 11 p.m. You'll book a tee time. You'll get an automated email with a link. And you're a member, so we know you. I have your phone number, all that sort of stuff, so that I can do that. When you show up, you can do it through my website, but you can also, the easiest way that most people do is they pull up their email because they've gotten an email within the last like 30 minutes as a reminder to make it easy for them to find the link. You click on that link, it actually takes you to the platform that controls the security on the door. As long as you're within 10 feet, it's probably 5 is more normal, but as long as you're within 10 feet, the door will recognize that you press the link and that you have access. And it's tied to the schedule. So like if you booked it at 11 and you show up at 5, the door tells you like, sorry, you don't have a tea time.
What's the general time frame? So if you book it at 11, correct me if I'm wrong, how early can you access the building? Is it
You can-
10:45?
Yeah,
15 minutes
it's,
before?
I tell people 10 minutes, but I usually have it set to 12 or 15 minutes before and after. That way they can kind of get in and putt and kind of get ready. And then after, so that if they forget their keys or something like that, if it's outside of that time, like you forget your driver or something like that, you'd have to call me in order to let you in. There isn't. So like I said, that's when I said that at any given time, there's only 4 people that could book 11 p.m. and would have access to the space. So like open 24, I don't actually consider actually like the business is really open because somebody can't walk in off the street, or you can't like Joe Schmo that I've never met can't like book a tea time and like get in there. They're always kind of carded members who have already been onboarded and kind of get the program, if you will. And I don't know, let me think the right way to say it. I generally give people a vibe that like we have kind of a policy of like, be a decent person, be a decent human. I don't mind giving people the boot if there's any kind of issues or concerns or that sort of thing.
Do you have
But
access
that's
to
tough
see what's going on in the facility?
Absolutely,
Camera
yeah,
access? You
100.
understand who's there normally?
Yeah, 100% of the time. And I usually check it while I'm not there. I can check it from my phone. I could see Montclair right now. If I see a tea time, for instance, that's like abnormal, I watch, I look, I see what's going on. Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues. Like I said, usually when somebody's going late, it's because they have a weekend golf trip planned and they found out that like the actual course they're playing is on TrackMan. And so they're like, I'm going to play the course as many times as I can to the wee hours of the morning.
Why don't you take 2 minutes and explain what you just said in terms of TrackMan and that you're actually having courses as opposed to just hitting to a 50, 100, 150, 200 foot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are like an indoor driving range, if you will, but I am very big on using like the best technology and the best products possibly available. So TrackMan is the leader in the space. Are any of you golfers by chance? By raise of hand, a few. Okay. So
raise hands.
Okay. Sorry. So sometimes you see the pictures or the stats on like how many pros have a TrackMan out on the range with them as they're warming up. The number is always above 70%. A lot of times it's above 80% at any PGA Tour event. These guys have TrackMans. The really cool thing that I think for being in the space is that all those players paid themselves over $20,000 for that unit. TrackMan doesn't give any pros a TrackMan. Even Tiger Woods himself bought a TrackMan. So for me, that's like a lot more powerful than like a business that, pays Bryson DeChambeau a couple $1 million to like rep a product. You know what I mean? These guys are using it because they're competing and every ounce of quality matters. So TrackMan is kind of known as the best in the space. When you use a TrackMan, that you can do everything from, like you said, you can sit on a range and bang balls at different distances. You have driving ranges that are like kind of you're hitting to greens and bunkers, and you can see trees and you can change the wind. There's also the Performance Studio, which was just released and we were beta testers. There's not that many scratch golfers who operate these things. So TrackMan usually like lets me get a free look on stuff or wonders what I'm thinking as an owner who is also okay-ish at golf. And the Performance Center thing is really cool because they designed it with tour pros. So you can like see everywhere between 30 and 240 yards, how many strokes you're gaining or losing to tour pros. You can even hit specific shots to I'm like Jason Day said, hey, I'm like struggling at back right pin locations from like 150 plus. And that was that's at least the story that TrackMan gives where they
And you
kicked it
can
off.
play courses, right? So
And lastly, aside from practicing, you can also play everything from Pebble Beach to St. Andrews, to fictional courses, to, and a lot of times these courses actually pay money to be on there. That's kind of how powerful TrackMan is within the space. I always have all the courses. Sometimes you have to pay a little extra for like the Pebble Beach Pack or whatever, but we always have that stuff. As far as like other choices that I make that ensures that the Millburn residents will get like the best possible experience is that there's certain things you can do with like the mats that save money or cost money. Most places have what I call inserts. So you do that so that when the mat kind of wears out, you only have to insert a small little square. The problem is that then when you're golfing, you have like alignment sticks. You have these horizontal lines. Then when you go outside, alignment's out of your process. So it's a problem. So I like replace the whole mat. I always have Titleist Pro V1 RCT balls. For the golfers, Pro V1s are kind of the most expensive ones. The RCT balls are another 50%, 40 some odd percent.
So those are things you provide. You provide
I
balls.
provide the balls, the
Let's
mats,
talk,
yeah,
let's talk
everything.
about land use stuff.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, so, all right, so this is all good, but let's get back.
You asked about TrackMan.
No, that's well, I wanted
Then I
to-
got excited. Sorry about that.
So, in terms of land use, I think would be important to the board to go over how your membership works in terms of access to the space. So if I'm driving by at 1 o'clock in the morning and I pass your sign and I say, cool, I got my clubs in the car, I'm gonna go on this app and become a member and walk right in at 1 o'clock in the morning and turn the lights on. So is that possible? And I'm giving you some context to explain the access to the space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not really possible. If you book as a member, I have a lot of automated emails that are like, you have to be onboarded, this and that. I get an email straight away, and I've had a couple people who try to skirt it. Nobody's ever been able to do it. But in general, no. When you become a member, you get an automated email. that
Let's
says-
talk about
Sorry.
this.
Yeah. So when you're,
Sign up today. What do I have to do?
you go on the website, you click join the club, you pay.
Which is how much?
We charge $135 for a casual membership and $250 for a full membership.
What's a casual membership?
Casual membership is 2 hours a month.
Right.
Anytime they roll over. Full membership is unlimited weekdays, 2 hours for the weekends. Those weekend hours roll over.
Can they bring guests or that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can bring guests. I don't ever try to nickel and dime people on guests, that sort of thing.
How
You can
many
bring the
guests
same
does it
guests
bring?
as much as you want. In Montclair, it's up to 3 guests per tee time. I'm considering reducing it to 2 guests in Millburn, but max, let's say worst case as far as use goes, it's 3 guests. 20, a member cannot be, all members are 21 and over.
Any alcohol consumption on premises?
No. Non-alcoholic beverages, food and beverage can be consumed, but not alcoholic beverages not
How do you
permitted
know
use.
Yeah.
What's that?
How do you know that?
I guess the same way
Well,
that, sorry.
first off, part of the membership, correct? No alcohol permitted pursuant
Correct.
to your membership rules.
Correct.
And then otherwise just policing through your own.
Absolutely. I mean, it's comparable to a golf course. In all candor, a golf course says you can't bring a beer. If somebody brings a beer, like, is it possible? Absolutely. But like, I can only do what I can do, same as a club or anybody else. Yeah.
So not like to kill you with hypotheticals and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, but like, let's say someone's a member and their kid uses it. Okay. How do you curtail that, or is that something that's okay? Like,
As long as their kid can be a guest. So as long as they're there,
They're present.
they're present. They have to be there. And to be honest with you, that's probably the biggest sticking point in the community that has upset like a few people. Is they're like, oh, I have a membership at Canoe Brook. Like, why can't my kid be there? And I'm kind of like, look, man, I don't need 15 and 16 and 17-year-old kids having unfettered access. So like, I just enforce it very strictly. It upsets some parents, but some parents don't mind.
I just want to be, there's never a person at, like, it's just everyone accesses on their own, they go in, it's, they there's never, it's never manned.
I'm usually there from
Usually
like,
there.
call it 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon ish.
But you have 2 locations.
I have 2 locations, yeah. So Montclair now is relatively full. So my intent is that I'm going to be spending most of my time at Millburn, but call it at least 3, probably more like 4-ish days in Millburn.
What if something happens? Like, someone gets hurt, accidentally?
In what context?
I don't know, if someone gets.
Someone swings
Like
the club
club.
and comes around and
Some
hits
kind of
me.
accident, someone has a heart.
Yeah.
I don't
Like
know,
me.
something
Has a heart
happens.
attack.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like,
If somebody gets, so obviously I have attorneys have like write waivers and that sort of thing.
That's not how.
If somebody got hit with a golf club, I guess it would be no different than somebody getting hit with a golf club out at a
I had a
golf
stroke
course.
in your place.
I think the question is, if somebody is alone, obviously if they're with a guest, they'll call 911.
Yeah.
But,
As far as hitting with a golf club, it sounds like that's the obvious thing. The more real use case is bounce back with golf balls. No, seriously, that's probably the, okay.
So it's not virtual. Oh my God, so, sorry, I'm like,
The ball is hitting.
Just
his
actual
birthday.
balls.
You hit a ball.
yes.
If you,
it's not virtual like an
Just
Oculus.
walk, yes, just.
so if you
just
try
For
to,
the board's purposes, just walk through.
Yeah,
How do the
absolutely.
bays work?
It was like an Oculus.
yeah.
What are they hitting into?
Exactly. You're hitting into a screen. So some simulators, like the budget model is just going to be like a screen, right? And so is there bounce back? How much bounce back? It has to be adjusted kind of constantly as the screens stretch. All of my, call it stuff, is built by TrackMan and installed by TrackMan. So you'd be surprised how many little features there are all around to keep it buttoned up and make sure that the bounce back doesn't, so that there aren't any concerns. So I have those concerns too. And that's one of the reasons why I have TrackMan build it out so that they're to mitigate all those concerns. And during the onboarding process, we have rules around like how close somebody can stand, like that sort of thing. And we make it very clear with where the grass is and whatnot. We haven't had any injuries whatsoever.
And just walk through, somebody, just explain for the boards,
thought it
because there's
was
some
digital
board members that
virtual
don't know
reality.
what
Okay.
this
I thought it was
is. So
VR.
you're on
No.
a,
Got
you're
it.
on a mat, you're
Yeah.
swinging a club. Just
So there will
walk
be
through.
let's say this wall right here, you have a 15-foot wide spot. Yeah,
That was in your hand. If you wanted
Yeah.
to
Yes.
set
Yeah.
that.
There we go. Okay, this is,
So this is a TrackMan
right,
bay.
and whoa.
Yes.
This photo, I believe, was submitted as part of the application materials, so we don't need a warrant.
Yes.
This is exact, right, Rich? I know you
Unless
put
you want
exhibit
to,
A.
because you put an exhibit A. on
Why don't we just make it
I didn't
exhibit
put the-
A?
Okay. All right, A1.
So these are TrackMan bays. These are 15-foot bays at the time. These were the biggest bays available. In May, TrackMan got some bigger ones, so Milburn will have the biggest TrackMan bays available. But effectively, this spot is where a golfer stands and he hits a ball into the screen. This is a TrackMan IO. It sits up top. The other version is the TrackMan 4, which is what you see at the PGA Tour. It's indoor-outdoor. I have that on the other side. Those are what's reading what's happening on that mat, and then you kind of see it in real time on the golf course.
And the ball hits the
Virtual golf
screen,
course.
Wow.
Correct. The ball
and it
hits
gives
the
you a
screen.
reading.
So there's padding. You can't see because it's all black, but there's padding all up in here. There's 2 layers of screens. There's kind of this chain that's wrapped in plastic on the bottom to help you with if you skull a shot. So because if it's not built out properly, you top it, it spins up, it can come back. And so what I've learned in doing a couple of these is that stuff matters a lot. And so that's why I kind of spare no expense on that, call it injury related stuff when it
Where
comes
does
to
the ball
balls.
go?
The ball hits the screen, and the screens are designed, there's a couple layers there. So the screens are designed to basically
Eat it.
deaden it, and it kind of drops down. And then it'll drop down a little bit in front of you. You take your club, you bounce it back, and then you go again.
Is this protected area? I mean, each bay
Correct.
is covered?
It's completely, yes. And the ones in Milburn, the 17-foot ones come out even further. These are 15 feet wide, and they come out about 13 feet. The larger version that came out in May, they're 17 feet wide, and they come out 16 feet. So it really feels like kind of a private kind of room.
And how high is it?
It goes up 10 and a half-ish feet. So any ball, it's not possible to hit a ball out of here.
if for a landlord, this is like a dream scenario. They're gonna give me a vanilla box, and if I ever leave, they get a vanilla box that looks like it was never touched. Because the balls don't come out of this thing. It's very buttoned up. Like for instance, I put 3 balls in there. Maybe one gets tucked around a corner, but like it's so buttoned up, there's no concern with losing balls. Like a lot of indoor places, it's not quite as buttoned up as these bays, so that you have to provide like 10 balls in hopes that like you don't lose them or whatever else.
So just to carry forward what you just said, there is a mat from where you hit the ball.
Correct.
There's a screen in front.
Correct.
It goes and just pops out.
Correct.
So as a player, what does it show? I mean, on the screen, do you see your shot, how far it's going?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like you'll hit the ball. If you're playing, you see a golf hole, just like you would outdoors, right? And the bigger the screen, the more, I guess, realistic it is. You're aiming just like you would outside. So there could be a tree down the left side of the fairway. I'm like, oh, I want to start it at that tree. You can aim and everything else. So you hit the golf ball, especially with the IO, which is a ceiling unit. It's near real time. So as soon as you look up, you're seeing the golf ball fly towards that tree. You can change settings as far as like, do I want it to be like I'm outside where I just see the ball from this one vantage point, or do I want the camera to follow it like it's a video game, that sort of stuff. And then it kind of does its thing. It flies through the air. It shows you the date on your shot. It lands on the ground. Then you hit the next shot.
And that screen is right in front where you're hitting. So you're seeing it right live in terms of how it's moving.
Correct.
Okay. So Montclair.
Yes.
Where's the location?
It's on Bloomfield Avenue, 369 Bloomfield Avenue. So it's right across. It's kind of redeveloped. There's like a new apartment building across the street. There's a
near Fullerton or? Doesn't matter. Okay. Question: how many bays there?
2. 1, 2.
Okay. And how many parking spaces do you have there?
We have. Actually, we only have 2, but they let me use 4 as like for intermediate time. But we only have 2. 1 per bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any?
Sorry, that excludes people who work there. So me and the pro, we have ours too. So 4 indoors, 2 for the members. Sorry about that.
How long have you been open?
Since we opened the doors November 6th, I think, November 3rd, sorry.
Of 2024?
That's correct.
Okay, so you haven't been out for
23.
2023. So 15 months. Have you had any parking issues?
No, but I mean, people are kind of, in Montclair, the parking is tougher, so people, I guess.
You're
are
not aware of any
accustomed to lots.
parking issues associated
Correct.
with your business, correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Can I get some clarification? You said,
Oh.
how many total bays
Total bays in Milburn,
in Milburn are you proposing?
3 right out of the gate. I have room for a 4th.
And you said each person could potentially bring up to 3 guests?
So the performance bay is going to be up to 2. It's kind of designed for like a coach and 1 person.
Okay, so
And-
up to 2, so that's 3 people in 1 bay, right, potentially?
Correct, up to 3 in 1 bay. So and what I said is I'm considering like reducing it, but like, yeah, so 3 would be 12 people.
Okay, so 12 people, then how many employees at any given time?
It's only ever me.
And you said you
Or
would-
an instructor.
You said it,
with
you said the, yes.
Christoph as an instructor, but in the performance bay, he would be counted in that number.
So just trying to like wrap my head around the math, how many people could potentially maximally be on site at once?
Yeah, absolute max could be like 13-ish people. We have, our space allows for 15 people.
So 15.
15.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so 15. And
Yeah.
you parking, are you applying for any parking?
We do not have a parking variance. This was accounted for as retail space. We comply. We'll have Mr. Keller speak to it as well.
Thank you.
In terms of the timing of when people come, did I hear you say people are there mostly in the day?
Yeah, it's mostly from 7 a.m. to kind of about 9 p.m. I have a couple regulars who have replaced their gym in the morning, like 5:30.
So I would think you get people after work.
That's a busy time too. But work from home has made it so that like a lot of people are coming, maybe more than you'd expect during the day, especially in the winter. In the winter, we were pretty full. Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify one thing. Montclair's been in business, yes, less than a year, but I also had another location that I've since divested. So I have done more of this than maybe one location suggests. I just wanted to mention that.
What's a full membership? What's the most number of members you would consider here?
So I would probably say that it's at 3 bays, it probably maxes out at like 150 total members. It's probably full members means kind of like 70, 80% of that. To be honest with you though, it might surprise me to the low side. Montclair people golfed more than I thought. So like I capped membership because I didn't want people to feel like they had to book it too far in advance, which is sometimes what people's experience has been at like 5-iron in the city.
So what's the max in Montclair?
In Montclair, I capped it, it was like 120-ish total, and that left like high 90s for full members.
So high 90 full, the balance for the
Correct.
house.
Casual.
Casual.
Correct.
Okay.
And members can, upgrade and downgrade, so it's not.
Yeah, if they find their usage needs more, they can go to
Correct.
full or.
Correct.
down.
Or like in the summer, they're like, I want to be a casual, and then they upgrade to full or whatever. So like it can move around with the seasons and that sort of thing.
Are there any other added costs other than the membership itself?
No, unless people want to purchase more hours. I'm kind of sensitive to like ticky-tack kind of stuff like that. So like, yeah.
And you mentioned a pro.
Yes.
Is that something that you sign up for separately if you want to do a
Yeah.
performance lesson? Or
Yeah, that's correct. We have Christoph Els, who was formerly at Montclair Golf Club. I thought when we first met, I really liked him. I thought like he would end up doing kind of both, but he's actually decided to he's like full bore on this. So he's like only with me now. And so he'll teach also at Milburn. We're working on being able to offer our members like some outdoor work as well, just to kind of further the product offering. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get people better at outdoor golf just via practicing indoors.
So let's jump back to this 24-hour thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously you can chart probably very easily your tee times and the usage.
Yes.
So, I mean, being open at 2 o'clock in the morning, is that really a customer that is aiming to please? I mean, where do you think it's realistic in terms of usage?
Oh, yeah. So I have a.
Just provide, just walk through it. Just explain.
Okay. Yeah.
Just
so-
explain what happens in the late hours.
Yeah, so I mean, there's like at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., there's no usage really. I mean, very little usage. Like there's not.
Where does the not anomaly the usage, but like where's
Yeah.
your bulk of your usage?
Yeah,
stop?
7 and it's really like 7 to 9. Sometimes in the winter, people go to like 11:30, but not much later than that.
Got it. Okay.
The half of it is probably me, to be honest.
Right.
It's 12:30.
Sure.
But like I said, it's more often than not. Like I feel like if I were in your shoes, the concern would be people like getting rowdy or events or that sort of thing. Like it's what I call grinders. It's people who like are frustrated by how they played earlier in the day, self-included.
If I could just ask you a few more questions about security because
Yes.
of the hours, which I think is unique for us. We're gonna start drilling down on that. There's no security person that stays there at night.
There is no security person that's there at night.
Okay, and you have cameras throughout the
Yes,
facility?
cameras throughout the facility.
And are there emergency alarms that somebody could activate if
Yes.
something happens? There's
Yeah.
gonna be like
Yep.
an AED on site,
AE.
automatic external defibrillator.
Oh,
Defibrillator.
if it's required by code, then yes. But
I don't think it's required by code.
I don't mind adding it. It's not. That's.
I would.
If you're by yourself.
If you're by yourself.
Right. Well, that is a good point. If somebody goes down, who's gonna see
We'll
it?
find him in the morning. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
So it's their risk.
Right.
That's what you signed up
But at least they'll be there when somebody
for.
arrives. So actually, what does happen if somebody goes down and out in the middle of the night?
Like if somebody just has a heart attack while they're by themselves,
Yeah.
I guess the same thing that happens at their house if they live by themselves. I'm like, sorry, I don't mean to be. I don't. I
True,
just.
but the liability's on you. It's like no place. It's an athletic type facility, so it can be anticipated that people's heart rate would be up.
Are you having any refreshments, like whether vending machine or otherwise?
I have water. I have water. A water jug.
I don't sell like anything.
Like candy bars, protein bars.
I've thought about like vending machines, that sort of thing. Like, I just haven't done it. I just am not that long on the idea.
Do you have lighting, like exterior lighting, and do you have a sign or anything, like on the outside of the building?
The sign is like as per what's already been kind of contemplated.
Okay, but
So
what about like lighting for this, like if it's gonna be, I guess my question is if it's gonna be 24-hour access,
Yeah.
is there gonna be like a sign that's lit up outside 24 hours a day or?
No, it would just be like kind of normal.
They're gonna access the
hours.
front door,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
You're not looking for signing matters at all?
No,
We
not
are
looking for assignments.
So it's gonna comply.
Whatever
Yes.
our sign is
That's
gonna
correct.
just comply with the box that was approved for.
Just for the front, the building itself, the windows, you have windows that open onto this space.
Yep.
Are they going to be blacked out? Are they open?
Yeah, I was sensitive to, honestly, architects told me like, oh, you should block the windows. Like that's the most efficient use of space. And I was like, the city's gonna hate that. And I don't really like it either. So like I've done everything I can not to block the windows. We have the layout right here. So you can kind of see, these are all windows right here.
This is the floor plan as submitted, correct, Mr. Keller?
Yeah, it's one of your submissions.
Yeah.
Right, okay, go ahead.
So these are the windows. What, like, for instance, architects would tell you to do to get the most out of space is just to like stack them like this, like a driving range, but it blocks all the windows. So what I've done is I only blocked like the smallest amount of window right here. This is actually open, so you can see the screen. I noticed that in Montclair, people like really liked it. It actually brought people, like they come in the glass and kind of see in. And this is all open here. So people like walk in here, they're gonna be golfing here. This is a putting green for like people waiting. This is another bay here, way far away from the window. And then this bay, people are golfing this way. It's only blocking like just the second door that I'm not using.
So if you're walking by at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And there's, 2 bays being utilized.
Yeah.
People are gonna be able to see those golfers.
People can see the golfers here, correct?
So each bay is not like enclosed by itself, right?
The one side is open. So
There's
this-
always one side open.
the side that the arrow is not facing is open. One side, one side, one side.
At Montclair, how far is this from any residential property and what sort of experience have you heard from neighbors, just generally?
Neighbors, like folks
Residents.
living there, or neighbors like other
Businesses or
retail?
residences?
Yeah. There's residences right above me, or it might be technically a little bit back, but it's like the same building complex. There hasn't been any like complaint in terms of noise or anything like that. The business next to me, I hear them more than they hear me. There hasn't been any type of negative feedback. Most of the feedback is that all the members are like, they all live like 3 minutes away, and that's why they like the membership. Like they wouldn't purchase the membership if it wasn't very close to their home. So that's like the location related feedback, I guess, that I've gotten from the market, that they just like it's really close to their house. Cause I kind of, when somebody joins, I spend like 15 to 45 minutes with them, teaching them how to use a TrackMan and how to get the most out of it so that they feel like it's their own personal like space or studio. Unlike if they put one of these in at their house, like a lot of tour pros have.
So from what I remember, I was on the planning board at the time that this was done. I think it's you have businesses on the second floor and then residents on the third.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, office space on the second, 3 apartments on the
Right.
third.
Okay. So they're obviously pretty well insulated on the third floor from any potential noise.
Yeah, they're not going to hear, the offices aren't going to hear anything either.
Right.
And are there extra sets of clubs available if somebody, doesn't happen to have their clubs and just want to?
I usually don't do that because again, it's kind of, I'm trying to like go for kind of avid golfers is like the spot that I'm going for. Technically, I do have some clubs and my pro has some clubs that sometimes people use, but in general, folks bring their own golf clubs.
If they want to demo another club, could they do that, or do you provide that service?
We don't provide, I don't sell clubs and I don't do fittings. I've been asked by fitters to use the space. I just am not super interested, to be honest with you.
Any other questions? Any other testimony on your side or?
Well, we'll get to the next witness, but I don't think we have anything further.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
At the end of Mr. Keller's testimony, we'll open up to the audience if there's any questions regarding any testimony for this evening.
You swear from testimony about to give tonight the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Name for the record.
Richard Keller, Keller.
Qualifications?
I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, licensed both for 40 years now. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering with a concentration in Water Resources and Environmental Engineering, and that is from Rutgers University. I also hold a Master of Architecture with a concentration in Urban Planning and Design, and that is from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I was also an adjunct professor for approximately 11 years. I have appeared before this board, approximately 110 boards now throughout the state of New Jersey. I have offered planning services to the Borough of Caldwell for the Board of Adjustment. And my license, my brand new license arrived 3 days ago, so my license is in good effect.
Thank you. Qualifications are accepted. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Keller, you're familiar with the application, you're familiar with the site. I said in my opening comments, you actually handled the original site plan approvals for this building.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
I'm just going to turn it over to you to go through the application, the nature of the variance relief we're seeking, and whatever else you want to add.
And Mr. Keller, keep in mind that obviously we've heard extensive testimony from the operator in terms of the factual things of the second.
And I think we all know where it is. It's obviously the building that's under construction and nearing completion was approved in 2022 with the first floor retail of 2598. This applicant is seeking to take the full retail space. The zoning officers deemed the golf simulation facility would classify as an indoor commercial recreation use as defined by our ordinance. This use is not strictly permitted in the B4 Central Business District, so we need a D1 use variance. However, it is closely analogous to an instructional school and studio use, which is a permitted use in the district. I would point out there is no parking variance required because the space was approved at 1 per 200, and that's the same parking requirement for the use that's been deemed indoor commercial recreation. So there is no.
What's the number of parking spaces that are allocated for the space under the approval?
Under the approval, well, the approval, none of the space, there are no, well, the requirement for this space itself was 13 spaces per 1 per 200. None of the spaces, there are 10 spaces behind the building, none of them are allocated for this use. All of the employees are required in the previous approval, the resolution, to get parking permits, and any of the patrons would use available downtown parking, and went through an exhaustive parking study and showing where those parking lots are available. I have the drawing with me, but I don't think we need to show it. But there is we're in a shoulder district. That's what our downtown study calls this. It's an area as you move away from the downtown where parking starts to decrease. The uses become a little more disparate, and I'll talk about recommendations for that shoulder district when I get to my planning proofs. But the allocation was 13 spaces for this zone, and 13 spaces are still required. I'm assuming that the original resolution would apply, and that any employees, whether it's the owner and the pro, would buy parking permits to park in the available parking that's the employee parking lots are right across the street. Parking lot 19 has relatively available parking spaces, even with part of that lot being taken up with the construction vehicles, et cetera. So the parking proofs were submitted, they were approved. No parking variance is required. I would also point out, because we're not expanding the space, we don't need site plan approval either. Obviously, we're still restricted to any of the hours of operation for the lighting. There was no hours of operation restrictions based upon the uses on the first floor by the planning board. But obviously, they'll have to comply with the signage. So all of that's already been approved by the planning board, and it's in the resolution as part of your package. But what we do need use for is the D1 use variance. To meet the positive criteria for a use variance, we need to demonstrate that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use, as this advances one of the primary goals of zoning, which is general welfare. We believe that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. I won't go through Mr. Vukanovich's comments, but I would point out, and I'll get to it in a minute, experiential uses, experiential retail uses, along with food establishments and restaurants are anchoring downtowns these days throughout the state of New Jersey. It's been a large shift in the last 10 years, and especially since COVID. This occupant will enliven the street. We thought it was important. First thing I asked was, are you going to put reflective material so we can't see into the space like they did at Flywheel? Because it's really anathema to the goals of the downtown, and they won't be, which means that one of the things that's nice is, as indicated, during the day, whether it's the school kids coming down from the high school, can look in and see someone golfing, or if you drive by in the evening, you see the lights on, you can see activity, and that's what enlivens the downtown. It sparks interest, et cetera. As was indicated in the experience in Montclair, and what we find are these experiential uses is the patrons of the golf club will then frequent neighboring restaurants, cafes, and food establishments. Since they can also bring in food, not alcohol, they can also patronize, again, local establishments, pick up some snacks for while they play golf. And then generally afterwards, it's been my experience, is that they're going to go out to, unless they're, midday, they're going to go over to the Standard. They're going to go to one of the restaurants and patronize those local downtown businesses. So there is that symbiosis between these experiential uses and the downtown fabric. And even though a parking variance is not needed, I think there's a good control over the amount of parking spaces that are required. I think actually this can generate less than a retail. But even in its worst case scenario, if you've got 2 employees and you had a total of 13 people in the space, that's 11 using 13 spaces that were accounted for in the previous parking study. So again, there's a parking available, whether it's on Taylor Street, whether it's in the local lots, whether it's on the street spaces, there is parking available. And again, I think this is actually a better use than a restaurant, which would be a permitted use because it definitely drives fewer parking spaces. The negative criteria, there's no substantial detriment to the public good, and there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan. We think this is there is no detriment to the public. As was indicated, it's a quiet use, it's insulated. What's nice is what also is particularly suitable about the site is there is no residential right above us, even though it can't be the residences, expensive residences above the Montclair application have not complained. We have a buffer in that we have a retail floor above with a lot of sound insulation already, and then any residence will be 1 floor above that. So there's good separation between any of the residents and the activities that will go on the first floor. We think that this is actually, there's no detriment to the public good, and we think it's actually consistent with the master plan and downtown vision plan, along with good planning principles. I would point out that with regard to the master plan and zoning ordinance, we also need to reconcile the omission of this use from those that are permitted in the uses, the enhanced burden of proof. I did the Bhakti Yoga Bar in about 2009, and then I did Flywheel in 2011. And Flywheel in 2011, it was a use variance. We got approval by 5-2, about 2 in the morning. Joe Steinberg was convinced by Mary McNett, one of the elder statesmen of our town, who was in her 80s at the time, but she was the most forward-thinking person on the board. And she saw then that experiential uses were going to become the new paradigm in the way our downtown will flourish. And it took a few years, but eventually in 2018, when the master plan was updated, the master plan did specifically look to that goal. And among the goals and objectives was to promote opportunities for high-quality retail and commercial activity in all business districts, and to strengthen existing business centers, including the downtown core. More specifically, the master plan recommendations for the B4 zone on page 54 of the master plan was to examine the permitted uses in order to permit more experiential type commercial uses. And that's exactly what they did. However, they couldn't think of all the potential commercial uses. The 2021 Millburn Downtown Vision Plan, also in the vision section regarding retail environment, page 28, the plan recommends that 2 shoulder areas be developed with a wider range of uses to bring more people downtown and to strengthen the core. Again, that is designated in that as one of the shoulder districts. The general reason when you try to reconcile why why the framers of the master plan didn't consider the use is too new to have been considered, and that's the case here. This technology of being able to put this high technology equipment into a space this small actually didn't exist in 2018. So while there were some centers on the highways for parties, et cetera, it was pretty limited technology. It wasn't the high technology here. It wasn't the boutique operation we have here that I think is unique, and I think will be a good use to attract other people to the downtown. There's certainly a need for it. We have a lot of golfers in this community. I don't have time to do that. I wish I did. Maybe I'll end up here someday. We think it is consistent with the master plan. I think we can reconcile the omission of the use since it is a fairly new use. I think it meets both the positive and the negative criteria. I think it's good for the downtown, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yep.
Are there any other businesses in downtown Melbourne that are open 24 hours?
There are none to my knowledge that are open 24 hours. I think that, again, when we looked at the demographics, there's pretty much nobody using it from 12 at night to 5:30 in the morning when we looked at the other uses. Maybe they linger over till 12:30. But again, the nature of that use, and you're not getting 12 people at that time. You're going to get one, possibly two people playing those hours. So there are people in the downtown at those hours, not a lot. I don't think this is going to overwhelm, and I don't think it's going to cause a problem.
But they could access it theoretically.
Yeah, they could access it.
Because
I mean, I work,
proposal is
I'm my office, we're contemplating moving to the downtown.
You're gonna do 24 hours?
I will tell you, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work till 2 or 3 in the morning. That's when I get most of my work done. I don't cause a problem in my neighborhood. My neighbors, my tenants next door to my two-family don't complain. So I think you can have limited use, and office workers can work anytime. There's no restriction when an office worker can come in. I don't make my employees come in at 3 in the morning, but I'm often there.
And besides the residents that are on the 3rd floor of this building, where are the closest residents besides those two? Besides those residents, I think there's 3.
Across the street.
Across the street, there are residents.
It would be 50 feet across the street. Some of the 2nd floor, not directly across the street, because we've got town hall here. So you'd have to come probably, there's nothing that way. So you'd probably have to come 75, 100 feet. Over the Dunkin' Donuts is where I think you get the first residences. I don't think you have any on the other side of the street.
Haagen-Dazs as well, I guess.
Haagen-Dazs does. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if they have residential.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And the lighting, the external lighting, I know we already discussed this, just to clarify, is there going to be external lighting at 2 in the morning?
It's all what was, the only thing it would be on would be task lighting is required to stay on around the doors by code 24/7. So that would be on, and that would provide for safe entrance in and out. And any signage on the building is limited by the 2022.
And when the windows are going to be covered, not covered?
Not
So when the lights come on, will the lights bleed out into the street?
No, well, you'll be able to see the activity in it, but I don't think it's not going to be high intensity lighting.
Can I ask you just real quick on the lights? You might be concerned with this one because you're like, oh, well, that light's going to shine over this way. Actually, these are projectors, so light is always going that way. So light doesn't come out of the window.
Although the window will be open, there won't be a covering over it.
Correct.
So there could be potentially some lights.
Well, I don't think you want to. I think one of the worst spaces we have in the B3 neighborhood district is the tutoring center that has white shades down almost all the time. It's awful for pedestrians. I think it's better at night.
Oh, no, I'm just talking
to
about
have-
people sleeping.
Have that glow.
I'm
But,
I'm concerned about the people
well,
sleeping.
but there are no residents directly across the street that would be affected.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience regarding this application?
Comments come next, right?
Comments? So any questions? Comments, let's do that.
Okay, just raise your right hand. Do you swear firm testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address. for the record.
Ben Stoller, STOLLER, 422 Wyoming Ave, Melbourne. Good. Well, great to see you guys at 9:15. And thank you guys for the work you guys are doing. I personally know it's a thankless job, a lot of hours, a lot of preparation. So I appreciate the time you guys are putting forth. I urge you to consider the benefits of the indoor golfing facility simulation brings to our community. With the owner already successfully managing other similar facilities, we can trust in their ability to alleviate any potential parking concerns, especially given that the primary use is relatively sparse, as he was saying. Parking in Montclair, I've been to that site a couple times. I had to park in the parking deck and walk with my bag across Montclair for here, the site behind Charles Schwab, the parking. There's not going to be a parking issue that I can see. It's certainly closer than the parking deck in Montclair. From the simulation, I'm glad you guys did some work on that. Their technology is the best. The facility that they have today is very professional. And it's funny, I didn't even talk to James, but we used it before we went to Pebble Beach and to Scotland. So it does give you that preparation. I think residents would all who golfed would like to have that opportunity without having a drive to Montclair, or there's one in Chatham, there's one at Baltusrol, there's a couple over in Madison now. For the hours, when I was in investment banking, I'd go in at 7 a.m., get out at 2 a.m. This isn't going to be the same type of commotion, I believe. There's already people who work in the middle of the night, but I don't think a lot of golfers, unless you miss a couple 3-foot putts at your local club, are going to go at 2 in the morning and practice. So let's embrace this opportunity, enhance the recreational options to residents, encourage good, innovative business uses in downtown Millburn while minimizing any potential disruptions. I encourage you to give them the variance they're requesting. And thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Any other further comment regarding this application?
Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight, stating to the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name and address for the record.
Stephen Grillo, Grillo, 375 Millburn Avenue. Good evening, Chairman, Board. My name is Steve Grillo, and I am the Executive Director of Explore Millburn Short Hills, the Special Improvement District for the town. And I'm here to speak in favor of the application submitted by the applicant. For those who are not familiar, Explore serves as the Economic Development and Small Business Support Office for the town. We have over 500 businesses in 5 distinct commercial districts, including the downtown. And firstly, let me say that things are very good in Millburn. The commercial vacancy rate has decreased from 16% in 2020 to just 4.9% today, including a reduction to just 2.3% in the downtown. 105 new businesses have opened throughout the district, and we have multiple new properties coming online in 2024. And Millburn Indoor Golf will be one of the most exciting projects in that batch of businesses, and I'm proud to offer my endorsement. As the Economic Development Office for the town, Explore has a variety of best practices that we believe will help continue to enhance the economic health of the community. Millburn Indoor Golf will accomplish 3 very specific goals within that vision, and that's why we are so excited for the project. Firstly, this project is a perfect example of the wraparound services that my office offers to a potential tenant. I began working with the applicant a year ago to find an appropriate space, develop community support, and connect him with local professionals to guide him through the review and approval process. And hopefully this will be a success story that we can use to recruit other exciting businesses in the future. Secondly, Explore has advocated for the creation of more destination and experiential retail, one of the critical aspects of downtown development post-COVID. Last year, I spoke in front of the planning board about the benefits of Tonino Cigars on Upper Millburn Avenue, another destination and experiential retail business. Tonino has enlivened Upper Millburn Avenue, and I believe Millburn Indoor Golf will do the same for the outer edge of the downtown. And finally, from a design aspect, vibrant and interesting storefronts are key to enhancing the pedestrian experience of our downtown. Based on my visit to the applicant's simulator in Montclair, I believe that this storefront will be an attractive, unique, and exciting addition to the downtown gateway. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any further comment regarding this application? In that case, I will close the public portion of this hearing. Board members, your thoughts?
I'll try to be brief. Thank you for all the testimony. I think it's a very cool idea. We do need more experiential businesses in town, particularly since the loss of the movie theater. I think it's really nice to have an alternative to some of the more traditional things that we have in our downtown. They've really thought through all of the things. It's very cool. I thought it was a VR experience, so it's fun to see it's actually not. You're actually using your body. My only concern, quite honestly, is the hours. And I would be more comfortable, quite frankly, if it ended for the first year at like midnight or 1 in the morning and opened up again at like 5:30. which seems like it's gonna capture the bulk of your clientele anyway, only just to see how it goes. I'm a little worried about people coming from the Standard and being drunk and going in and there's nobody there. I don't know that that would actually ever happen, but there's no other 24-hour business in downtown. I don't think Millburn's a 24-hour town. I think we're kind of a bedroom community, a suburb, so I would be more comfortable if the hours were limited.
I don't have a problem with the application or the hours. I think this is a really different kind of application than, say, a 24-hour convenience store or something like that. I think that the analogy to just being able to go into your office, you know, for work purposes, kind of at any time of day or night, is kind of more equivalent to what this would be. I think in terms of worrying about what's actually going on inside and like a hypothetical situation of someone being drunk from the Standard and going, like, I just don't think that that's really our board's concern. You know, that's a liability issue for the business owner. So I would fully support the application. I think that it's going to be, if it's approved, a really great addition to our downtown. I think, you know, attracting more business to, you know, restaurants and other establishments that are already existing in the downtown. And again, in terms of the ordinance itself, you know, people can foresee that something like this would exist when it was crafted. I think if you could, you know, this absolutely would have been a permitted use. I don't see any detriment to the downtown by adding this, only benefit. So I would be happy to support it.
I agree. I think that this is a great use of the space. I like the lack of intensity of use that it would bring to the town in terms of its, you know, when I was on the planning board and this came in front of us, I was always concerned about this space because of what was done in terms of the parking, because, you know, it could turn into something that would be very high volume, but this is not. And I think it'd be a great addition to the downtown. Hours don't concern me as, you know, it's really individual play. Someone who's used these, it's not something that it's not Topgolf, it's not that type of thing. So I really think it would be a fantastic addition to the downtown and just a nice offering. So I would wholeheartedly support this application.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it has the potential to bring people into some of the other businesses as well. And I think that's a positive. So I think it's a great addition and I would be supportive.
Likewise, I would echo all those comments.
Assuming you move forward to vote.
Yes, sir, John.
Just want to remind everybody that it's a de minimis variance and the applicant requires 5 affirmative votes for approval.
Can I have a motion in this case?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Joseph Colford,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani.
Yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
No,
Jessica Blatt.
Yes.
Craig Player.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good
Yeah.
evening.
We're gonna take,
Will do.
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess, so, and then we'll get to our last application.
Yes.
Yes, it is for the record.
Jermaine Wong, GermainWong.
Rich Keller, Kelder.
Okay, please proceed.
Great. First of all, I apologize for standing between you and dinner. I know it's getting late.
That's
I
why
don't
we're
know
paid the
about you,
big
but
bucks here.
I keep learning my stomach. So I'll make my introduction really quick. My name is Jermaine Wong. My wife and I moved to Short Hills 13 years ago into a cute little Tudor in the Greenwood section. We are now in our second home in Short Hills at 87 Old Short Hills Road, which is the subject matter of this last item on the agenda. The construction of our house actually took a lot longer than we had hoped. So by the end of it, we sort of ran out of steam. I knew at the time that we wanted an outdoor kitchen, we wanted a fire pit, and also a sports court. But quite frankly, by the end of it, we were just exhausted. We couldn't deal with it. We just wanted to move in. So fast forward 3.5 years later, I guess now I'm over the PTSD of construction. I think I'm ready to tackle the outdoor space. So for the last 5-6 months or so, I've been working with a landscape architect and also with my engineer, Rich Keller, to come up with a proposal for the outdoor space. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rich to talk about the proposed plan.
Any questions? No, any question for this applicant so far? Come on.
Thank you. The property is a 73,200 square foot, 1.68 acre flag lot. Flag lot meaning it's got a narrow staff and then opens up into a larger section, which we call the staff or the stem or the pole and the flag in the back. It's unusual for Millburn. We don't have a lot of flag lots within the community. The stem portion of the property is 69 feet wide, and it's about 300 feet long. Actually, sorry, it's 279 feet long, and that contains 18,750 square feet, or about 1/4 of the total lot area is actually in that stem. And that stem is only used for the driveway, and there's a drainage conveyance system that runs down, picks up water from other areas and runs down through the property. But essentially, 1/4 of the lot is in front of the property, which when you've been doing zoning in Millburn as long as I do, as soon as you see that, it sets off alarm bells because you say you're going to have a problem with rear yard unoccupied. Because we have a unique ordinance, the only one in the state that I know of, where you're required to have 25% of your total lot area has to be behind the house and unoccupied. And so when 25% of your lot is already in the front with nothing in it, and then you open up into a back section, which is 54,000 square feet. So still almost double the required lot size for the R3 zone. With that much area in the front and a house roughly centered in that property, alarm bells go off, and that pretty much anything you do, even minimal additions to the rear yard, you could run afoul of the rear yard unoccupied and still be well underdeveloped in terms of your accessory structures. And that's exactly what happened here. I would say I would also point out another thing that impacts, besides some wetlands associated with the drainage structure in the front, there is a low-lying section in the back of a number of properties that contains freshwater wetlands. And we've looked at those. In the freshwater wetlands, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a photo exhibit. This will be A1, dated May 6, 2024. It's an aerial photo of the Wong application at 87 Old Short Hills Road, prepared by Casey and Kelly with today's date. And the photograph behind is taken on May 3rd, 2024, so it's relatively recent. And what we did is we superimposed the property lines very accurately over the existing property to sort of show the surrounding development. And you can see that there's a driveway coming in, opening up to the circular driveway. And you can see the darker area of leaf litter, et cetera, in that northwest section is the area that's considered freshwater wetlands. So with the freshwater wetlands, there's also a 50-foot buffer. So in that area, you're allowed to construct approximately 200 square feet of new structures on previously disturbed areas. So we do tuck a little bit of a toe of the outdoor fire pit goes in there, which is permitted, but we really couldn't put the sport court anywhere in that area. So if I take A1 and I mark the limits of that, a little darker, I mark the limits of the freshwater wetlands. Any place I want to put a sport court would have to be to the south of that. And so we looked long and hard about where the best location was to put it, and we realized, let me go briefly to my A2, also pre-marked May 6, 2024. This is photo board number 1. All photos were taken by myself earlier today, approximately 9 o'clock in the morning. I took photos because the site can be daunting. I don't know how many people actually drove down because it's hard to find. And there's signs saying private because there are people who walk their dogs thinking it's an entrance into the park or something. So he did, and I did take a few pictures because I think it's important to understand the topography in the rear and why we're asking for a side yard setback for the sport court. Big property. We do have some wetlands, but why are we looking to go with almost a 0 setback on our sport court on a big property like this? It's because it's the natural place it wants to be. So if we go through the photos quickly, we're looking across Old Short Hills Road down the access driveway. You cannot see the house at all. As you come to the point where you get to the end of that stem and it starts to open up into the flag portion of the lot, you can see the modern house. It was a house owned by Ruth Steckelman for years. Modern. It's been significantly modified, not really expanded that much, but modified by the applicants. It was always modern, keeping that modern vernacular. And it's a little hidden gem at the back of the property that you don't see it all from the street. As you look on the left side, there's a driveway that accesses a 3-car garage on the left underneath that exterior terrace. If we come down to just at the end of the house, you can see that there is a low-lying slot in the back along that area on the left or the south side of the property, which becomes it's the lowest part of the property, which means for sound abatement and for visibility, placing the sport court at the lowest part means it's least seen by any of the neighbors. If we look at that spot a little closer, I come into photograph number 4. This is moving further to the back. As was shown on both the site plan, there is a wall. If anybody walked back, there's a retaining wall. That retaining wall is actually close to 9 feet beyond the property line. So our property is 9 feet closer, and then the sport court starts about 16.5 feet forward of that. So if you look at photograph number 4, you can see the retaining wall. About 8 to 9 feet further is the property line. That it's a straight line, but because it comes down the hill, it looks to bend, but it comes down from the neighbor's property at 15 Hillside, comes down, goes up the hill, etc. We're looking to put the sport court at the closest in the back would be 15.6 feet off, so fully conforming to the setback for the rear. However, we're looking to dip a toe in to take advantage of that low area and dip a toe in that comes down to 1.56 or 86, whatever. 1.86 feet off the line. It's only for one small little section. And then the court, which is held orthogonal to the house, moves away from that line. I'll get to something else in a second. If I stand in roughly the center of the court and I look towards those wetlands, you can see that the property rises up. So if I was to put the sport court more central to the property, it would be a few feet higher, which makes it more visible to the neighbors behind me at 15 Hillside and possibly to people on York Terrace behind us. And finally, photograph number 6, I'm looking from the rear, looking back over what will be the sport court up to the adjacent neighbor's sport court at 15. And there is a little spot at which from the second floor of their house, you can actually get a framed view into our sport court 300 feet away. But we did meet with, they are also clients of mine, and I tell all my clients, especially when I have neighboring clients or also my clients, I want to keep everybody happy. If I can't keep everybody happy, I don't need the job. So we met with the Hoffmans. We met on their property. They came over. They strained to see where they could actually see the court, but we did agree to put 3 evergreen trees in one spot where they can see a little bit from the second floor through a little opening and possibly see into the yard. And then we offered, where their sport court is up top, they have some rhododendrons. We offered to provide them 3 rhododendrons that they'll plant on their own property to further buffer that area. The people behind us, you can see there's already dense evergreen vegetation on the top of their property.
Real quick, So if the wall, no, go that, yeah, no. So the 9 feet you have behind the sport court to the wall, you said. And then how far is it?
No. I have 16 and a half feet from the sport court to the property line and another 9 feet to the wall.
And how far to the house on York?
On York,
Really from the edge of the sport court to the house is what I'm really interested in.
that's the side of the house, so they don't look directly back that way, but I have a scale.
Noise is where I'm going here.
So 30 scale. So from the closest part of the house to the sport court would be 79 feet.
Okay.
And what lot are you referring to there? The adjacent lot.
Well, I think what the chairman was asking is behind those evergreens that sit on top of that retaining wall is the property lot number 26, which is 12 York Terrace. It's the very end of York Terrace on the right side. Left side is also Flan Mine Markovitz. Met with them, they had no objections whatsoever.
Wait, Rich. So lot 26, 12 York Terrace.
Correct.
The distance from the proposed sport court to their home is how many feet?
79 feet.
Thank you.
And it exceeds the 12-foot minimum setback by more than 4 feet. So we don't have a setback issue from the sport court to the people at 12 York. Where we did have an issue is we wanted to keep the sport court orthogonal to the house. We wanted to get it to the lowest point. We wanted to stay away from the wetlands. And we also wanted to keep it away from the 3 largest trees on our property, which is the 28, the 18, and the 21-inch tree. The way this tree is grown down across the roots grow down, we looked at it with an arborist and we decided we can easily fit that with that sport court in there without causing any damage to the root system on that 28-inch tree. If we were to take the sport court, turn it and put it back 12 feet, we definitely take the 21-inch tree down. But also the court would sit higher on the property and be a little more visible to the neighboring Hoffmans who are at lot 6, which is 15 Hillside Avenue. So they have put up a dense evergreen buffer. They've also supplemented it behind with some green giant arborvitae. The one area where they could see through from their second floor was right in there. So a little slot between their sport court, which sits up on a hill, a much bigger sport court, and the evergreens. We identified an area where we could spot in 3 more green giants that would eclipse that view from the second floor. And that's the second floor, and that is a distance of from the house. It's actually 240 feet. Now, I would point out also what's confusing if you were back there is that there is a fence that is 11 and a half feet off the property line. So when we dip that one, or it's 11 feet off the property line. So when we dip that one corner into be only 1.86 feet off, we're still very close to 12 feet off the fence, which is what the perceived sideline is. And again, if you look, you see this drops from 263.75 down to close to 250. So there's 13.25 feet drop in a very steep manner. So when you're on this sport court, which is the highest part of the property, you look right over our proposed sport court. It's down low. There are existing rhododendrons. Proposed rhododendrons will actually block some visibility and some noise between the 2 sport courts. Our sport court is actually undersized at 27 by 54, so it's not a regulation size pickleball court. They actually, my client, we drew pickleball lines on it, but their actually preferred use is actually racket sports like badminton and those games. I think in speaking to Jermaine, she's actually never played pickleball, so her interest is actually to get some versatility, but pickleball courts are generally, regulation is 30 by 60 for the overrun. We're at 27 by 54, so it's smaller, but it does allow for some outdoor recreation.
Pickleball court's 44 by 20.
44 by 20 is the actual court, but the recommended U.S. Pickleball Association required or specifications for a pickleball court are 30 by 60.
Well, I won't tell them that it's undersized, but at the end of the day, you still can play pickleball.
Oh, yeah, you can play pickleball. Yeah. But, so, yes, you can play pickleball. You can play any kind of ball you want on that, technically. And I think we don't regulate against pickleball or any other ball sports on these surfaces. But I think what's important is that when you go into the back, because of that fence, because they couldn't put the fence with the steep slopes, you couldn't get it to a property line. So when you look in the backyard and you look at the, this fence is actually 12 feet off the property line, which runs right through there. So again, it feels like it's a subject property. We've met with the neighbors. The neighbors are happy with the arrangement. They are not out to object. And so we think that it's the best location on the property.
So Rich, just quickly, if you turn the, if you reduce the, if you regrade it to make it a little bit lower, and you turn the proposed sport court location perpendicular, so that you wouldn't need that side yard setback, what is preventing you from doing that?
If I try to hold it 12 feet off and come in here, the primary roots on this tree are out in this direction, and I get the 21. So I would most likely lose the 28. I would definitely lose the 21-inch tree. So, I've got to keep it biased a little bit to the south, which is the bottom of the drawing, just to stay out of the freshwater level. So if I was to put it in that area, I don't want it to be right against the back of the house. It's not required. So if I was to instead put the back left corner at 12 feet off, I would necessitate the loss of, in my opinion, 2 of the large trees, one being in the foreground here. The others actually don't have good pictures of, but so in terms of the rationale support of the variance is that in this location, we can save more trees and we get the property, we get the sport court lower, because if I move it up, I'm not going to carve it artificially into the ground, so I'm coming down into a grotto. This is the natural low, so there's a progression down the property. My last A3 would be 2 renderings prepared by Good Grounds Design Landscape Architecture out of Philadelphia, the landscape architect that Jermaine's been working with. These were dated February 20th, 2024. I'm showing it as A3. The first picture is looking from the driveway, which we're actually, because it's a flat spot, we're removing some of the driveway and putting pavers in to get better water absorption and better water management. That technically reduces coverage, but we didn't consider that. And you can see the sport court is level with ground about the middle. It sits a little above, it's sort of at an intermediate level, about a foot higher than this wall, about 3 feet higher than 3 feet lower than this terrace, which is another foot lower than the terrace behind. So if I was to move this over, it would definitely come up 3 to 4 feet as it moved over into the backyard, and it would necessitate the loss of at least 2, possibly 3 of those large trees. Photograph number 2, this is taking from the, looking at the proposed sport court from the existing covered terrace. So this already exists, this covered terrace. They're just putting an outdoor kitchen on it, fully compliant, does not need variance relief. And you can see that the way that this kind of accurately represents the way that the sport court gets nestled down into the landscape, into that hill, underneath the Hoffman sport court at the top of that hill, underneath that retaining wall. So it's really the best location in terms of sound absorption, as well as minimizing tree disturbance. So we think that we need 2 variances. One is for rear yard unoccupied, and one is for the accessory side yard setback. In the case of the rear yard unoccupied, that is clearly a C1 variance. That's applicable over the shape of the property combined with the location of the lawfully existing structures. Makes it impossible to add any square footage to the backyard without the need for variance relief. The unusual shape of the lot, combined with the location, it's driven by the flag-shaped lot where 18,746 square feet of stem increases the required rear yard unoccupied by close to 5,700 square feet, yielding an unoccupied requirement of 18,300, where 17,257 is proposed. I would point out that without the stem, the remaining 54,000 square foot lots, if I took off that stem and looked at it, and this was my lot area, I'd be way under on my rear yard unoccupied. It's this 25% of the lot being in front that really drives that number up. So without the stem, we'd be at about 36% rear yard unoccupied. We also need a variance for accessory side yard setback. We think this is a C2 or the flexible C variance, where the purposes of the Land Use Act are advanced and the benefits resulting from the deviation outweigh any detriment. And this is known as, again, as the flexible C. Also kind of considered where the proposed application with the variance represents a better planning alternative. We think that that's the case here. It promotes the conservation of natural resources in trees, promotes a desirable visual environment by depressing that into the lowest portion so it can't be seen further left. It's less seen by the motor in its location down below, especially evidence in mock-up number 2 on A3. We think that there's no adverse impact on the enjoyment of air, light, open space for the neighbors. We think that with regard to the negative criteria, there is no substantial detriment to the public good or substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan. The project does not have any adverse impact on the neighborhood, in our opinion. It's under on accessory coverage, 15% where 20% is permitted. It's under on lot coverage, 26.8 where 35% is permitted. And even if I didn't consider that stem, I said, well, yeah, you're under on lot coverage because you got that big stem. But if I just took the back half of the property, I would still be only 30.5% coverage, whereas 35% is permitted. So I'm still under by 4.5%. So this is clearly not an overdevelopment of the site. The stem doesn't affect my rear yard, my accessory coverage, which I'm well under in all cases. Again, 15.3 where 20% is permitted. Can't be seen from the surrounding streets where the existing topography and the landscape screens it from the rear yards of the adjoining properties. It's not visible from the dwelling or usable part of 15 Hillside, but we did agree to put some additional trees between our two properties at the cost of my client. And certainly no detriment to the public, to the master plan. We think it promotes the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality. The Steckelman property was quite run down. A good friend of Roger Menchel back in the day, but it was really falling apart. And my client has really lovingly kind of worked on the house and now looking to extend and really kind of refinish the backyard. They don't need a variance in terms of setbacks for the small area of the outdoor fire pit, but it does drive up some coverage, so it does exacerbate the rear yard unoccupied. Again, I think it's clearly a C1 variance. So there's no detriment to the master plan or the public, I believe. I'm happy to answer any questions. We really did, I don't ever like to come with a zero setback. When you look at it, you can't believe it's a zero setback. You think it's actually 12 feet. So happy to answer any questions.
Any lights on that court?
What's that?
Any lights on the
No,
court?
they're prohibited from by ordinance.
Just sticking with your drawing, you show 186 as your offset, but you also show 0.11. What is that?
Retaining walls do not have a required setback. So we have a small little retaining wall gets closer to the property line, but that can go right on the property line. But the actual sport court, the surface, and actually, that's actually we have a little slot drain there too. So the slot drain is actually 1.86.
Oh, and that wall that's 9 feet off the line, what's the top of that elevation, top wall, Or how high is the wall?
Yeah, it's the top of the wall is 253.5.
That's the bottom wall on the other side, I think.
So I've got 250.75 at the bottom. At the top of the wall, it's 253.38.
I think that's 253.38 bottom wall on the other side.
Well, it's bottom wall on the other side, but
is it flat on the side?
Yeah, my crews always, because sometimes walls stick up,
Yeah.
so they call it a bottom of wall, but in this particular case, it's contiguous with the top of the wall. Yeah. So it's 253.38, so it's about 3 feet higher than the sport court. And then you've got the tall green giant arborvitae on top of that.
Beyond the property line of the applicant, there is this triangle formed, which is, at the corner of the variance that you're seeking.
Mhm.
What is in that triangle? I mean, I'm presuming it's the neighbor's property and it's the fences.
Yeah, well, the fence sits almost, about 11.5 feet off of the proposed sport court, and then it runs along the property line. It was so steep in here that it was almost impossible for them to transition down and run along the line. So essentially, they found the most convenient place to put the fence, which is somewhat shown on here. So here's the fence running to the back, and they sort of gave up that area, which back in there is where, you know, we get, that's the property line, and this is where, back in here is where we get close. So the, again, if you were out there walking through the back, you would think, for all intents and purposes, the fence was the property line. And we're very, not quite, but very close to 12 feet off. But again, you're at the bottom, you're 13 feet below the sport court that sits right above that. So in some ways, by tucking it in close, the further away you can see down, by tucking it in close, they look right over the top of us.
Who maintains the triangle area?
My client.
So, have you talked to the environmental commission about this project?
No, am I required to?
I don't know, they sent me a rather
I don't even
strongly,
know how they got the application.
rather strongly worded letter regarding this project and their concerns, so.
Okay.
Well, the trees will be addressed as part of the.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to them,
Yeah.
do what they want to do with this project, but I'm just merely asking if you spoke, if it's no, it's no, it's fine.
Nope.
What's the,
We won't use any fertilizers.
Yeah.
what's it made of? This is a synthetic, this board, or is it hardboard, or what is it?
I don't know if the applicant has decided that part yet.
Is it water permeable?
If you stand up, if you're to speak to the microphone.
I don't, we haven't decided yet, but generally, whether it's water permeable, we're gonna pick up the water underneath, so it's the same as though it was
I realize
fully
that, but I mean,
pervious. But if it's probably will not be, it probably will sheet across, and we'll pick it up in those drains, and we'll provide drywall.
I know there are a couple of options. Some people use asphalt and some concrete. I honestly haven't decided what the surface would be.
We had a couple sports courts that are just that plastic synthetic, right? It's over New York.
I've done them where they're plastic synthetic on top of a cinder base.
Yes.
They tend to move a little bit, but generally what you have to do then is you have to put an under drain system. So when you think you're getting groundwater recharge, you're not, because what
That's
you're
not a
doing.
consideration here anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that would be appropriate.
Let me just ask you this, so you want to build a sports court, but you're not sure what you're going to build it out of, I'm not sure what sports you're going to play on it?
I know I want to play badminton. Interestingly, pickleball court and badminton court exactly the same size. I grew up playing badminton,
Yeah.
so that's.
So, but I mean, badminton, you're probably not playing on sand, correct? So it's going to be some sort of hard.
Yeah, it'll be a hard surface, whether it's asphalt or concrete.
Right.
Yeah, one of those two.
Any other questions for either the applicant or planner? For the record, there is no one in the audience, so.
We met with all the neighbors.
Yeah.
So, then I'll close the public portion of this application. Board members, your thoughts? All right, I'll go first. I'm not thrilled about building anything on the lot line. I just don't, I realize that there's some anomalies with this lot, but I'm not sure that it can't come off it, so I'm not a huge fan of that. My other concern is this, I mean, it's essentially a pickleball court, and, you know, being that it is in here for a variance, you know, it may not be the owner's intention, but it could be the next owner's intention to play there. I am concerned about the noise they generate. They generate a ton of noise. I mean, if it can be built as a right, go ahead and do it. But this is not as of right, so it gives us the opportunity to put our 2 cents in. So that is my concern with this project.
Well, isn't there a pickleball court right near there?
Yes.
Once again, it's as of right, as of right. So we don't have input on what they do with that one, but this one we do.
I agree with Craig. I'm not a big fan of putting anything that close to the line. I mean, we're talking a tenth. I mean, I know it's just the wall, but it's an improvement. It's a tenth away from the property boundary. It also looks like you can swing it through there and maybe lose a 4-inch tree. You could probably not lose the 28-inch tree. That's just my thought.
I hear what my fellow members are saying. I would be concerned about if you build it, you know, as of right, losing those large trees and also making it, you know, more unsightly for the neighbors because you're pushing it further out. So I'm kind of mixed on this because I agree with what they're saying, but then I also feel like, you know, you could be making things worse by building it as a right.
I agree with that. So I also feel mixed about it because the environmental concerns of the trees and things like that, like I would rather not disturb those. And it seems, at least from the testimony we understand, like it would be challenging or potentially worse to put that somewhere else. The question, I guess, is, is that a hardship? Is it a thing that one really needs in there? I don't know if that's, I would probably say no.
Yeah, I don't see it where this says C1 at all. This is strictly a want. This is not a, there's not a hardship in anything. It's sports court. But, I realize the anomalies of the lot in terms of driveway, but I mean, this is a pretty big 54 foot by 27.5 foot piece of concrete. It's pretty big. So, any other thoughts?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. I don't have like a huge opposition to it because people do put sports courts. There's actually sports court next to mine. My neighbor is below me, but I still see it. I still hear it. So I feel like anywhere you put it, they're gonna hear and see. I could go either way. I'm not horribly objecting to it, but I hear all of your valid concerns.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I mean,
Can I?
This other portion is not closed.
Oh.
Go ahead, Shantanu.
I was just going to say that, yes, it is close to the property line. But I think it is, I'm on the fence too, hearing all the views. But just personally, I feel that there is a natural barrier in terms of, between the two properties. And with that fence, which is sort of, already giving that 12 feet protection, I would be okay with that. Although I do agree that it is actually on the property line technically. I could be okay with going, given all the constraints that you've talked about, given the tree and, swapping it, making it perpendicular. You already gave that testimony that it was thought about, but, without causing environmental harm, you couldn't have gone ahead. So while I don't like it, I could be supportive of it.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. It's an unusual situation, but I think that I would be much more concerned if this were done as of right. And I think that I think the fact that the neighbors don't object is also certainly not decisive, but important to me. So I think I could be supportive.
In that case, do I have a motion?
I will move to approve this application.
I can second.
Joseph Caulfield,
No.
Chandra Rajani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
No.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
No. Close the project.
Thank you.
4-3 carried.
Wow.
Thank you.
Kentucky Derby.
I feel better. Can we turn off the, we're gonna go into executive.
Yeah, we're going to executive session.
Somebody needs to make a motion to.
I'll move to approve it.
A second.
All in favor?
We go into executive session.
Session.
Yeah, you don't need me.
No.
No. Moral support.
Yeah.